I'll introduce Jeff with a little story. How's
Okay. All right. So first, okay. So first, Bok, Bok Choy, he mains Astro, in my group, in my
Hello,
sub
hello.
group, and I've known Bok since 2.1. I think
Mm-hmm.
2.1. Yeah, so I've known Bach since 2.1, so he's like one of my best friends and stuff. We've been raiding together for a really long time. We started in the same static dis raids here finally. Um, so yeah. So he's one of my best friends. We've been raiding together forever, and he mains Astro in my group. But he's also an amazing warrior and amazing DPS too. He's just all around a really good player. The second host or whatever is Chet. Me and Chet, yo, we've been tanking together since 2.1. 2.1.
Yeah.
Like, so me and Chet have been tanking together for like,
We don't even have to talk anymore, dude. It's just like on the 7th level, you know? It's
Yeah,
like, you know, it's like, you know how twins, they can like talk to each other through their mind and stuff? Yeah, that's how me and Zeno tank now.
yeah, it's just crazy, man. Like, so like 3 years, I think.
Yeah.
3 years, something like that. Yeah. Yeah, and Chet, he used to main Paladin. Now he mains Dark Knight, but he also plays Warrior. He also plays. He's got a beastie summoner, and
Fledgling.
yeah.
What?
What?
Let's not exaggerate here, guys.
Fledgling. Yeah, let's go.
What did we? What did
I'm
you used to
also-
call
I'm also
yourself?
the
The Chet of
slayer
all
of dogs.
trades.
The Chet of all trades. That's what I'm...
Yeah. So, yeah. So Chet's pretty much. He's pretty good at every job role. I aspire to be a good healer like him, but sometimes it doesn't happen. But anyway, so Jeff, are you back, man?
Yeah, sorry, we just had this
Oh, it's all
little
good,
impromptu
dude.
Christmas, I guess.
Christmas
But I'm here
aggro.
now. Yeah.
So okay, Bach, did you want to introduce Jeff?
Jeff? Well, yeah, sure. Well, actually, you know what? I have a little story about Jeff, and not just a story. It's a little bit of a confession and a little bit of a something I need to get off my chest. Okay, so all right. So back in the day, this must have been a couple of years ago. Turn 13. There's this. For those who don't know, there's this mechanic called Earthshakers. So what happens is two people get randomly selected with a little marker above their head, and then the boss shoots out this line AoE towards them, and as they get hit, they leave a little puddle behind. So, you know, basically what you want to do is you take it to the wall, you run it to the wall, so you put the puddles out of the way, and you don't shoot anybody with it. So one day in turn 13, Jeth was in my static, and Jeth goes, "Yo guys, do you guys mind if I try something? I might die." And we're just like, "Yeah, whatever, man. Do whatever the fuck you want." So Jeth does this thing where he dips just out of melee range, runs in, he drops the Earthshaker off, runs in, attacks the boss, gets a GCD, runs back. Just play the clip. Show everyone what it looks like. Could you do that, Zeno?
Yeah, I linked
Play,
it.
just play the clip. All right, sweet. No, just straight up play.
Oh,
it
okay,
straight.
okay,
Can
all
you
right.
do
Hold
that?
on one second.
Oh,
all right.
fuck yeah. All right, sweet.
All right, let me. Oh man, I wasn't playing. Okay, hold on. I gotta just keep talking. I'll set it up.
Okay, yeah. Well, basically, he dodges out of melee range, places the puddle, runs in, gets in the GCD, and so forth. So anyway, first freaking try, he does it perfectly, and we spent like the rest of the night trying this out, you know, and everybody else tried doing it. All right. Oh, nice. We got the video up. Let's see this.
Yeah, that was good shit. Dude.
Oh, fuck yeah. Okay. Yeah, so anyway, I take this video and I put it up on YouTube, and it was also left on my Twitch, and somehow it got popular, and I heard that people on other servers started calling it the bok choy. and giving me credit for inventing this. But I guess little known fact, I did not invent it. Jeth invented it. And well, on other servers, they apparently called it the bok choy. Over here, we called it the Jethrid Shuffle after the genius behind the method, you know. So I don't know. I just want to get that off my chest after 2 years. Oof, that felt better.
After you already cashed all that sweet karma.
Yeah,
Now it's
I'm
easy
not,
to get off your chest.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
gonna assert that I'm the one who like decided that hitting the boss is cool, because I don't know, like everyone's trying to hit the boss as much as they can during that mechanic. I mean, like if I'm one of the early users of that method, there's probably other people who figured it out independently. But yeah, I mean, evidently it was going around as the bok choy, and yeah.
No, you were the first. Confirmed.
I was actually playing a different MMO even. I was playing Blade and Soul under the name Bok Choy, and someone's like, "Are you Bok Choy from Final Fantasy?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "You invented that thing in turn 13. You got our group killed like a billion times."
But yeah. That's probably the best part of the whole thing, just to know that there's, like, because of this thing that we publicized, groups are just, like, dying over and over, just pointless deaths. Like, I wonder how much time we wasted, like, in the world over people trying to do this dodging
This
pattern.
story, though, reminds me of the Xeno strat from Turn 6, but that's a different story.
Oh, yeah. Now, you know what? The Jethrid Shuffle, that's actually how I met Grand for the first time. Because, so I was helping his group. And I did that. And he didn't know that I was going to do it. And I think I killed him. And he was like, yo, that little thing, he said it all sarcastic and fucking arrogant, you know? He was like, so that little thing you just did got me killed. And I'm like, well, I mean, you got to get good, you know? Like, I mean, what do you want me to take this shit away from the boss? Get the fuck out of here with that. Come on.
You remember what we used to call it when you fucked up that strat and you left like the orange puddles all over the place? We called it spilling your orange juice.
Marlby
Like, oh,
always
man,
spilt
I
his
spilled
orange
my
juice.
Clean up-
We always
clean up aisle
told
5.
him he needed a sippy cup because he could never do it.
Anyways.
All right. So
Yeah, but anyway,
on with the show.
yeah.
All right, story time's over.
Yeah.
What are
Anyway,
we
so
talking about
this episode is how to get good, and you're gonna be told how to get good from people that are borderline average players. So take that.
Wow.
So take that however you want. Okay, hold on. Let's see.
Did we just get upgraded from below average to borderline
Sweet.
average?
Borderline.
we're
average.
we're borderline now. We've been practicing. Okay, so all right. So moving in on our very first topic, what does it mean to be a good player? Just the basics. You got mechanics, you got fight knowledge, group and boss positioning, DPS, HPS output. Okay. Jeff. Lead us into this.
Lead us
So what does
into
it
this.
mean? What does it mean to be a good player to you?
Good player to me. Well, good player. You know your job. Not only like how it works, like how you're supposed to do it, but you know it like so well that it's all habit, and it just happens automatically. Like you automatically just like extrude like proper rotations and play and cooperation with other people.
Okay. So are you born with this skill, or does it? So it must take some work then
Yeah, I mean,
to get to that point, to become from not good to good.
yeah, I mean, there's a combination of things. There's like your environment, like who you're playing with and what they think is cool, and a lot of individual considerations to make, including your approach to practice and your approach to rating and progression, and each of them have your characteristics that are important to consider.
I know I used to be a really shitty player. So the very first MMO that I played, it was Ion, And back then, I clicked all my abilities, and in addition to clicking all my,
clicker.
in addition to clicking all my abilities, I had no idea about like tank or DPS or healer. I just was like, yeah, this game looks cool, you know, so I just wanted to play. You know, I saw the gladiator class. The gladiator class is a lot like warrior it is in this game, and you use like a pole arm. And I was like, oh man, they got big weapons, yo, I'm all about that shit, you know. And I just fucking, you know, it was me, Nick, and like, well, Naiden, and my older roommate David, and it was just us three, man. And like all three of us were horrible, complete shit at the game, right? It's just because, like, one, we didn't really know anybody, like we didn't have a fucking parser, you know. So like if you'll always get better if the people around you are better. At least that's what it was for me. And like with a parser, oh my god, dude, I got so much better. I got so much better when I was able to get a parser and actually see how awful that I was at the game. Like I just seen it and I was like, oh my god, this is embarrassing, right? And I mean, some people, they get like discouraged or whatever, and you know it's gonna happen. But me, I looked at it as I really can't be much worse, so I can only go up from here, you know. And so I started off as a really shit player, but like, man, like I can definitely agree that, you know, like the fucking environment that you're in, the environment, like the tools you use, and even like I'm like there are some really good players that click, but me personally, like I can't click my abilities. Like, you know, there's some really amazing players that click and use controllers and shit, but just me personally, I have to have a Naga. It just works out better for me. So like if it works out better for you to use a controller, then by all means, you know, but like just personally for me, I really needed a Naga, and like I needed like the better environment, right? Like I needed like people that were better than me to tell me I was shit, you know, so that I can improve and stuff.
I have a story about how I knew Zeno has learned he was a bad player before in 14. I remember one of my first conversations I had with Zeno and Mumble when I met him. He told me that the dual Hawken was better than the weapon from turn 5. He liked the parry more. He liked the parry.
I did, dude. I loved it, dude. I loved it, man.
So that also means that there's hope, even for the dumbest of us, to get better.
Yeah, dude. There's always hope, man.
But when I think of a good player, I think of them as not heavy. You know, they don't necessarily have a backpack on that they can carry their team. They might have a fanny pack. You know, you can put like a little bit of someone's weight in your thing, but you're not heavy. You're doing the mechanics properly. You know, you're doing your share of the damage. You're not. You know, people won't notice you. You're not going to be
carrying your weight.
Exactly. A good player goes unnoticed, honestly. Like, you'll notice high DPS players, right? They stand out, but that doesn't necessarily make them good players. They just do a lot of damage. But the unsung heroes are good players, and they go unnoticed a lot of the time, right? So there's not necessarily glory in being a good player.
Yeah, I'd say, you know, overlooked aspect of like being good is it's not only like performing well, but and like putting out numbers, but it's also, you know, like meshing with the people and, you know, not doing anything to interfere with the goal, and not doing the things needed for the goal. And the goal is like always kind of a changing thing. There's different goals, or if you're in a trap group, like trying to work out your rotation, or if you're in a world progression trying to not die to stuff, or doing speed runs trying to optimize a full party. There's, you know, your goal will change, and your approach will change, and yeah, being able to do it in a way that meshes with what, you know, the goal is and all the other players. Basically, you can go unnoticed if you do all the things right.
Yeah, that's a really good point. To kind of piggyback off of something Zeno said is, I find that surrounding yourself with good players helps make you a good player too. Like, I find that people tend to feed off of each other's competitive energy, you know. So you see one guy min-maxing, and you know, or a couple guys, you know, they're talking about their parse or whatever, and naturally that makes you curious, and I don't know. I think people feed off of that, so I think surrounding yourself with the type of player that you kind of want to be, you'll eventually pick up on things, and I think a lot of we've kind of benefited from being friends is we pick up on a lot of things that each other does, right? Or just kind of like competitive energy and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, because like each person is gonna have like a slightly different play style too. So like in some places where like one person might be like a little more aggressive or whatever. There's gonna be like another place where oh my god, yeah, what is that? Okay, yo, I'm gonna let someone else talk because someone's scraping my driveway right now, man.
Oh, that's what that is?
Yeah,
Barely
man.
hear it. All right, so um, let's segue into something more like class
Definitive?
specific or role specific.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, basically, like all in all, like those things that kind of apply to every class, right? You're doing mechanics correctly, you're putting out the right amount of DPS, and you're not heavy in any category, right?
Yeah.
But what about like really or role specific things? I guess I can go first here as the healer. So, the basic job of a healer, I'd say the bare minimum is if you're keeping your party alive, right? If you're keeping your party alive through mechanics and the stuff that's supposed to be healable, basic tank damage, tank busters, AoE damage, stuff like that. And you have some degree of being able to adapt when people take extra damage and shit like that, right? I would say that's probably the bare minimum. If you're doing all that, and suppose you're doing 0 DPS, that's a bare minimum. If you're, what the hell, you put that hat on me? Anyway, oh, okay, oh, this is a talking hat. Okay.
Someone couldn't tell.
Someone
your voice
didn't
from my
know your voice from
Oh.
chat, so I put the hat on you.
Okay, cool. All right. So anyway, on a basic level, a healer on a basic level does all that, but also acknowledges the DPS aspect of their job. And some people haven't gotten that far yet. They're just heal only, right? And I would say that if that describes your gameplay, then I'd say that that's probably even below a basic level. I think at a very basic level, you have to acknowledge, at least to some extent, the fact that DPS is a part of your job.
Can I interject something?
Sure.
I think another thing that I see a lot of healers not do is they don't plan around their offensive or their healing buffs. Like I feel like they try to reactively use their things. Like they don't use light speed at planned points in the fight. I think a lot of the times you'll see, I think good healers plan their usages of those moves rather than just use it when I need it to. I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And that goes beyond cooldowns too. Like the difference between a proactive and a reactive healer.
Yeah.
Reactive healer plays whack-a-mole, right? You see
Yeah.
who's damaged, you click over to them, and you throw your healing spell, and then you wait for the next, the next mole to pop up, right? But a proactive healer tries to understand the fight and understand where the damage is coming from, when it's coming, and they're able to anticipate it. Right, and you can either anticipate it by pre-casting a heal, or you can, pop cooldowns before times of heavy damage, right? So anyway, I would say at a basic level, you're DPSing and you're healing proactively.
Yeah.
At a more advanced level, that's when you're really starting to min-max your cooldowns and your each and every GCD,
Yeah,
and you're
yeah.
healing in such a way that you're opening doors for yourself to do more damage.
Yeah,
Right.
but we're talking base good.
Yeah. Oh no,
Base goodness.
I'm going down the whole
Yeah.
scale, man.
Yeah,
I'm going
gotcha,
down the whole
gotcha.
scale.
So
So
we're talking about the levels here.
so if we're moving to the next level, if you're going to be an advanced, a more advanced min-maxing healer, then you're not only opening doors for yourself to DPS, but you're also enabling your co-healer to DPS. So when you're working together with your co-healer, you have a better idea of prioritizing your most efficient heals, not overhealing or minimizing your overheal, and basically making it so you have more GCDs to spend towards damage, and same thing for your co-healers. You're opening doors for your co-healer. So that's more of a min-max level healer, and then that's what I guess being good and then being great looks like for a healer. Yeah. So anyway, anything you want to add about healing, or you want to go straight into
We can
tank stuff?
move out. Yeah.
I
All right,
mean,
so
I wish
what
I
does it
could
mean to be a
add
good
something
tank?
to healing. I was starting to get okay at White Mage, but then like when White Mage was kind of zoned out of the game,
And then White Mages is
oh,
no
that
isn't
sucks,
meta anymore.
man. And I don't want to level Astro, but maybe one day. Yeah, but like so like for like a tank like perspective, man. Like I think the basic the like the at the very basic level, it's very very easy to tank in this game. It's very easy to establish
Hold aggro, hit
yeah,
cooldowns.
it's very easy to establish aggro. Like your tanking stance will carry you an unbelievable amount. Like it tanking stance is so fucking good in this game. Like
Yep.
you you can literally live through shit with just tank stance. So like when I see tanks struggle with aggro and they just die out of nowhere with their tank stance on, it just fucking perplexes me. Like it leaves me in awe. I just cannot believe it, because whenever I'm in tank stance, like I feel indestructible because I'm not really in tank stance very much. So when I am, I feel like I'm just like, wow, like there's no way I'm gonna die, and there's no issue with threat at all. So like the very basic, I think, like at a very basic level, is super easy to tank in this game because of the tools that it gives you. Because tank stance is really good, but like what do you think though, Chet? Like at a basic level?
I think at a basic level, as long as you're hitting cooldowns, and you're managing to do more than just your threat move, like chaining together combos. I think.
I mean, it does light
you're
up.
decent.
It
Not
does
good.
light up.
Yeah, yeah. As long as you hit the ones that light up in a row, you're doing good. But I feel like a good tank keeps keeps other things in mind. Like, okay, how does this boss positioning affect other people? I feel like that should be a basic concept that good tanks have. I don't know.
You mean that when there's an AOE that goes out and you just have the boss's ass right in the AOE and just you don't
Yeah,
even
yeah.
move it? You think you should? Okay.
I feel like
Yeah,
I feel
we
like a
learned it
good
today.
player. I feel like a good player should realize boss positioning. I think that's, you hit cooldowns, you hold threat, you hit the ones that light up, and you're doing a good job. I like, honestly, if like, I feel like any stellar healer, they pick up a pug tank, and that tank's hitting cooldowns. He's positioning the boss properly, and even if he's in tank stance the whole time, does no damage. I don't think you can call that tank a bad player. I think he's doing fine.
Yeah, he
I
may
think
not be
he's doing
like
the
the
bare
best, but
minimum,
he's doing.
but
He's not like
that's
he's
like
not
the
like a
bare
shitter,
minimum.
right?
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that is probably a bit more rare than
See,
you'd expect.
what kind of similar to what you said back when I used to tank. I used to say that the four pillars of being a good tank, and basically you've named them all, is threat management, so aggro, right? Damage mitigation, so you're popping cooldowns, and you're not you're doing what you can to protect yourself from dying, right? The third is positioning, and the fourth is damage output. So those are the four pillars of tanking. Would you agree? Disagree? Would you add anything
Oh,
to
that
that?
sounds fair. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. I think that like. Yeah, man. Like I really agree. It's just at a basic level, it's really not that hard to. It's really not that hard to just get like the basics of. I think when you see I think when you see issues where tanks they don't use cooldowns, or they don't care about like the boss's position or something like that. I think it just stems from laziness, and they just don't care. Because if you play any other class in the game, so if you play a tank and a healer, you're going to know how much of a pain in the ass it is if you have a shitty tank, right? And if you play a DPS and a tank, you're going to know how much of a pain in the ass it is if you don't position the boss right. Because if you're like constantly like having the boss fucking move, it's aids to try to get GCDs off. And especially like, you know what I mean? Like not only GCDs but positionals too. So like actually, when you have a bad tank, Jeff, what triggers you the most?
Yeah, what triggers you about bad tanks as a DPS fan?
What triggers me the most? You know, there's something that people do which is absolutely like stupid, the worst thing I've ever seen. It's when they're moving a boss, like they get into position, like maybe the boss is in some sort of like animation lock or whatever, or it's casting an ability that is preventing its movement, or it's in a not moving state and it's coming out of a moving state. Basically, like a tank will just like they need to bring the boss somewhere, and they'll just run away from the enemy. So they're not hit it, they can't hit it at all. They're just running away, and then that's a loss on their side. And then when the boss comes out of that impaired movement state, it just goes faster than running speed over to the tank. And because of the way like line of sighting works for melees in this game, that's just an awful situation. So that's a pretty big one. Movement for me. I mean, the other ones are like I can anticipate most movements, but sometimes there's a tanks that just like habitually just rock like, you know, side to side for no reason, and like especially on Dragoon, like I'm on the line because like sometimes when jumps coming up and I have positional like right after that, I need to get into position before I use the jump. And that's a window of about a half second. And if the tank is making any kind of like random movements, no matter how small they seem, it you know, it betrays the expectation that I had, and it, you know, it kind of rips opportunities for DPS out of my hands, and it's just the most frustrating thing ever. So yeah, if you're like if you're moving, than necessarily like don't if you're going to move, like, you know, say something, please. It doesn't cost anything for you to say that you're moving the boss, so like, why not? It helps, even though I should know what you're going to do, but it just helps reinforce the expectation, so that we can all, you know, play the best we can. And don't freaking move it when it's locked in animation, please.
Another thing that I think a good tank will do, like specifically in 8-man content, is communicate with the other tank. Because I don't know how you can do that without like a mic or whatever, or like planning out things beforehand. Man. So I think a good tank will at least before the fight say what's going to go down. You know, you don't just pull without talking, right? I feel like a good tank will communicate to the other tank either beforehand or during. You know, but I feel like communication between the two tanks is important for good tanking as well.
Yeah, I like whenever me and you tank, we pretty much don't even have to really say anything, man. Like we just there's been some times where we've had like accidental tank swaps, and it's been like, oh wow, that really worked out. Yeah, we're gonna keep doing that here. Yeah, so like one of the so now that we're past this like basic stuff, man, like one of like the advanced stuff.
Advanced
that I
tanking
think,
stuff?
yeah, the advanced tank stuff is trying to, I think the most important thing is trying to balance your cooldowns with not being in tank stance, because your tank stance is really, really good.
Last resort.
And it's really, really bad. Yeah. Like your tank stance should be used like in two different ways, right? It should be used for prog, so it should be used for learning, and it should be used for, oh shit, something happened that was really bad. I need my tank stance now. It shouldn't be like, it should never be, I'm going to be in this 100% of the time.
It's not your default stance.
Yes.
It shouldn't be your default stance. Yeah.
Like your DPS stance is just as important as your like tanking stance. It's just the way, like, I mean, even during prog, it's really important too. It's just the value, like, of how important it is. They happen at like different times, right? So like when you're learning or whatever, like you should be in tank stance, but once you learn like a phase or like a part of a fight, then you should automatically be thinking to yourself, okay, how the fuck can I take this off? Like take this fucking aid stance off and use a cooldown or something to compensate. Like, okay, I'm gonna gauge the damage here and see how much is coming in and stuff, you know? Like I
Yeah.
think that a really, really, really good tank
I
will
think
always think about that kind of stuff.
I think a good example was when Cheese first started playing with us back in turn 10, turn 13 era. I remember he was used to tanks using tank stance 100% of the time. And we told him we weren't going to do that. He was worried. I remember him telling me he was worried because he thought he was going to have to do a lot more healing, but he said he didn't even notice a difference. So I feel like a great tank, you know, won't burden the healers more. I think that burdening the healers is where you start to push past the good tank into the shit tank, right? So you start treading that line, right? But a great tank shouldn't burden the healers more with the
What
loss of tank
triggers me
stance.
is like you're doing Sophia and like the very first tank buster, the warrior goes and pops home gang because he was too lazy to pop a real cooldown, so now you gotta heal him.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that, yeah. But they don't think about that. I mean, they care about their own DPS. Just they don't give a shit about their healers, right?
Yeah, sometimes like sometimes I'll see tanks, like they'll be in their tank stance and they'll use their CDs so fucking bad. Like they'll use them on auto attacks while they're in their tank stance, and it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like having too much mitigation is almost as bad as having too little, because if you have too much, it'll fuck you over like later in the fight. Or
It's a resource. It's
Yeah,
a limited
yeah.
resource.
like
It should
your
be treated that way.
yeah, like your cooldowns and stuff, it like just the balancing act is so like it's so important. It's so important in this fucking game, man. Like it's unreal. And that's what really separates like a good tank is their ability to use their CDs and do a lot of damage.
All right. I think we're starting to belabor the point. Should we
Yeah,
talk about
I-
DPS now?
Yeah.
Well, I just want to make one final point about
Okay.
tanks is that healers and tanks kind of have that in common, where at a basic level, at a very basic level, you're basically just looking to stay alive, keep aggro, and worry about all those other things. But as you get better and more advanced at your job, what
You
you're
have to
now
have more
doing is
teamwork.
you're converting your skill and your efficiency into damage somehow. So like, for a tank, if you know the fight, you can convert it into damage by spending time out of tanking stance. And for a healer, you're spending more time in cleric stance because you're healing more efficiently and you understand the fight better. So I think tanks and healers kind of have that in common, is that you're converting your defensive skill into
Yeah. At
offensive
the higher
game,
levels
right?
of play, every class is a DPS. Just
Yes.
tanks and healers
Yep.
have to do a little bit of their stuff.
Yeah, you have to balance. You have a little bit more on your plate, right? Yeah. So anyway, all right, Jeff. Okay.
What makes a good
sets-
DPS?
Yeah. What separates good and bad DPS?
The difference between a good one and a bad DPS. Well, I don't know. At a very basic level, like a DPS who is doing their job is a good DPS, and a DPS who isn't doing their job is bad. So what is your job as a DPS? So first is your rotation. Like every job needs to know what their rotation is, like when they're doing damage. But the DPS have probably one of the most the rotation is pretty complicated, and it takes like maybe a little more than just looking at the abilities and figuring out like maybe there's something that's not obvious. So of course there's a little bit of research that goes on. You learn your opener, you learn your rotation, or you figure it out and you execute it. And once you have that knowledge and that ability to execute, then you are fulfilling a DPS role. However, it does not end there. If you were to further become a good DPS and it's become like what I'd say a moderately good DPS is you don't have lost time. This is so important that you don't lose time. Like some people try to play the rotation perfectly, and that means they are thinking about something when they use their off GCD that causes them to clip into a GCD. Yeah, you can't do that. You should be trying to, not lose any time at all to anything, not to, targeting, not to dodging mechanics, not to figuring out like what move to use next. You should always be hitting something. Like you see this a lot in monks or dragoons or ninjas, like trying to get their positional. And they're not there yet, and they're like, "Well, I might as well get the positional because that's what I'm supposed to do." They
delay the GCD.
They delay their GCD to get the positional. Like no, if you miss the positional, maybe you're a dragoon and you're close, like you should not delay anything for anything like that. And if you make mistakes, well, at least you're practicing in a way that will allow you to improve. You could like you will make mistakes trying to lose no time, but at least you're practicing what you need to be if you're doing that. So moderately good DPS would be someone who can do the rotation and doesn't lose time, and they also like survivability at this point. You want to not be dying to stuff all the time.
You shouldn't be compromising the raid success.
Yeah. So an equal emphasis on damage dealing and survivability. I'm not going to say that to be a good DPS you have to not die ever, because part of optimizing DPS is figuring out where the thresholds are.
Yeah.
But between life and death. But yeah. Then if you were to take DPS to a very high level and become an advanced player, you have to kind of understand that your cooldown usage is not set in stone. Like there's so many variables in a fight and how your rotation should go based off the changing factors in the fight. And sometimes like you want to do like really unintuitive things, like in Alexander Savage 2, like on Monk, there are situations where you'd want to be like sitting next to a target, auto-attacking it while using meditation, so you have more TP for an AoE phase that's coming up. Like, there's just a whole lot of considerations. Your cooldowns are just a big puzzle, and there is a spot like you could find where each cooldown has the most value, or you get the most use of them. And that leads to varying approaches. Sometimes you want to get that value of the cooldown. Sometimes you want to get that frequency of usage. So it's pretty complicated, and you can figure this out by condensing the rules of your rotation or the considerations you make into like a way that you can bring it into raid and like actively be optimizing while you play and raid, and be able to take mental notes and act off of them.
So good DPS is never done. It's constantly evolving.
Yeah. You could also do this by reviewing footage. That's my favorite way to review footage, because like maybe I didn't do a fight yet, like I'm just watching progression videos or whatever, but I want to do the best DPS I can review footage and have an idea of what I'm going to do just based off the timers alone and the phases and the up times and the number of available targets. So yeah, there's the planning, the cooldown planning, which is sometimes not obvious. It's sometimes unintuitive. Then there's I would call it controlled aggression. Like as a DPS, you want to be hitting the boss at all times and never be not touching it really. But mechanics will try to get you away from the boss, and sometimes you have to leave the boss to dodge something or to fulfill responsibility. And as a DPS, you want to do it as fast as you can, basically. And that usually involves like a couple times where you try to do it too fast. You try to get back to the boss too fast, or you carry out your action too hastily, and you mess up and you die. And I don't know, it happens. I don't think there's anything to feel bad about it unless it happens again or it becomes a problem. Like certain mechanics, I would definitely make sure go off successfully. I would not play around with them at all, like to try to really cut it close. Like something that involves the whole party dying as a result of your mistake is not something I would try to be so aggressive with. And also being able to like dial back how aggressively you like once you died a mechanic, like dial back what you did that time and keep it there. Like keep keep your approach to it somewhat consistent, so that you don't have the problem again. So that's something a really advanced DPS has very good control of, like being able to dial back and consistently, to have control over their aggressiveness. Another thing that a very competent DPS does is that they have high awareness. Like a lot of, a healer and a tank go into a fight, and they kind of like know what's going on with everyone. They know when everyone's taking damage, what cooldowns they're using, and to some extent the tanks know what the healers are doing, they know what the DPS are doing, and know when the damage is happening, what cooldowns they're using. And the DPS, they show up when they hit the boss.
They're off in their own
Yeah.
little world.
Oh
Right?
man.
Yeah.
Whenever I have to DPS a fight after tanking, it's like a whole new experience.
Oh, it's fucking AIDS, dude.
It's like,
Oh,
it's,
man.
it's like, wait, I thought I knew this fight. It's like a blank. I have no idea what's going on.
Man, one of the most triggering fucking things, man. Like, I don't even. I think next raid's here. I'm probably not gonna select Ninja as my alt job, but holy fuck, dude! Like, whenever I play Ninja, I swear to God, I go from like 0 to like 1 million in like literally a quarter of a second. Like, I was helping this A11 group the other day, and because, okay, so as a tank in A11, you have a lot of control like over where the boss goes, right? And in that fight, because the optics are so like aids on trying to get positionals and keep uptime and stuff without taking additional stacks and shit, it's like, well, I'm used to just fucking, like playing Warrior or like Dark Knight on that turn and just fucking man moding and just taking a stack, who fucking cares? I'm a tank, I can eat
Yeah.
fucking 3 of these and it won't even matter.
Wow, fuck you.
But
Yeah.
but like as a DPS though, that shit, that's like, that's spooky town. Like you take one and then it starts to get a little spooky. But like it really fucking triggers me, man, because I'll go in there and I'll try to help and I end up fucking, I'll die to some stupid shit because
You're supposed to be the expert who's cleared this hundreds of times. and
but
you're
I'm trying to get like, I don't know, a fucking like a flank armor crush and shit, and I take a stack and then some fucker hits me with that yellow shit and then I die and I get really mad because I think the issue is because I can't anticipate where the boss is going to be because I'm not tanking it, whereas as a tank I can like get a GCD, like take like maybe a 5 yalm, like walk and then go back to the boss and like, but as the boss move, it's just like a positioning thing, I guess. And like because I can't do that on a ninja because I don't have threat on the boss, it's very salt inducing. Like
You have no control over it.
yeah, so
You're at the mercy of whatever the tank decides to do.
yeah, and I think the thing that triggers me is that like whenever well, not like all the time, but like in situations where where the tank positioning is so important, I can't help but put myself in their situation, and I'm just like, why the fuck would you do that? Like, why would you move the boss like that? Like, I was helping an A11 the other day, and on the fire part, well, like our DPS was like awful, so we saw the optic. We saw the optic in that phase. So the tank literally moves the boss to the complete opposite side of the arena for that optic, because their positioning wasn't relative to the boss. It was like true north,
Yeah.
And let me tell you about how fucking awful that was. So like as a DPS, I'm going, to like, it was like the northeast or some shit,
Oh, I
and
can
I see the
imagine.
boss just gun it all the
can
way across
imagine.
the fucking room, and I'm just like, where the fuck? So I follow it, of course. I'm not leaving the bar. Are you crazy? Are you crazy? I'm a DPS. I'm supposed to do damage. I'm
Yeah, I bet
following the
you're
boss. I
coming
get
in hot,
fucked
dude.
up. I get fucking destroyed in the middle. I'm just dead as shit. Dead. DD. Deleted. And I like,
Were you on Mars?
I was fucking, dude, my head almost exploded from rage, dude. I could not believe, like, I thought I lagged or something. Like, the boss, like, literally teleported
Brain
across
lag?
the shit. Yeah, it was ridiculous. Like, it is just fucking ridiculous. I was just like, are you fucking kidding me right now?
So that's Jeff's point right there of jerky movement to the extreme.
Oh, that was a teleportation. That wasn't jerky. There was nothing. There was no jerk. That was a teleport. That was like instant transmission. Yeah, it was crazy, but
So, going off of what Jeff said, the fact that you always want to be on the boss, and you basically want to maintain your GCDs as much as you can, and you always want to be hammering away at your GCDs, and that kind of like, I think that's something that really ties into all classes, and I think that's probably like, if there's one single thing that would improve most players, it would just be chaining GCDs. Just do more GCDs.
That kind of transitions into what we're going to talk about with cast per minute, right?
oh,
Yes,
it does
yes.
indeed.
Oh, that
CPM.
segue.
But I wasn't done with.
Oh,
Okay.
Oh, okay. Go
My
ahead.
segue. All right, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, just a couple more things. I think I would say, yeah, like, DPS are in their own little world, and they have kind of a small idea of what's going on. A highly competent DPS kind of expands that, and they know, like, when the healers are under stress, when something like goes wrong, like where really to maximize healing output and damage from the healers, like where to place your mantra as a monk, and like maybe we're in trouble and just running up to the healer for an AoE heal that like, or to getting into healing range of them in a situation that you might not be normally. Those are all kind of important things. So it's not optimizing only your own role, it's all optimizing others' roles. And if you were to take a DPS play to an extreme and like be the top tier, like a perfect player does all the things that I talked about before, but they do it by habit. Like, it's a habit now. All the tricky spots in your rotation, all that decision making with cooldowns, it happens just automatically. And habit is kind of hard to come by. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of experience. And anyway, yeah, sorry. Now, Chet, you can continue your segue. Sorry.
All right. What were we going to talk about?
CPM.
Bach wanted to
CPM.
talk about some CPM.
Okay. Well,
Cast per
basically,
CPM guru, dude.
hardly. But anyway, CPM, for those who don't know what that is, it's a stat that's actually tracked on FF logs. It stands for cast per minute, and basically what it represents is how many actions you've taken over the course of a minute, or how many actions you've taken over the course of the duration of the fight. And I think this is probably one of the most overlooked things on FF logs, but I think it's one of the it's not perfect, but I'd say it's one of the truest metrics to measure player skill. So, and basically what it measures is how, for the most part, how well are you using your GCDs and how well are you riding that GCD. So, from the perspective of a DPS, for a melee, for the most part, you can only use your GCD when you're in range of the boss, so you want to stay within range of the boss, right? For healers, it's
Always casting.
you always be casting, yeah, and
The
it's,
ABC of
very
healer.
yeah the very very common, the old adage, ABC, always be casting, and that's very true for all classes actually, not just healers, not just DPS, right? You pretty much always want to ride that GCD, and if for whatever reason, if your GCD is not going, there has to be a good reason for it, right? So I think the thing that most separates, a basic level player, an average player, and an above average player is their CPM.
Riding
And
the
it
GCD.
doesn't, yeah, and it doesn't tell the whole story. Obviously, if you're riding your GCD but you're doing dumb shit like
Yeah.
applying dots too early, or
Yeah.
you're overhealing, or you're
And
just
CPM
doing
also
dumb
takes
things,
into
right?
account like using your off GCDs too. So
Yep.
Wait, so you're telling me that, okay, so you're telling me that as a healer, if everyone is full HP, you're not just standing there, dick in hand, you're actually
Nope.
casting? Oh my, I'm learning all sorts of stuff.
If you're playing whack-a-mole, you're just sitting there waiting for someone to take damage. Dude,
Well, you
you're
see
ready
that
to
a lot,
cast.
though. You see that a lot.
Yeah, you do. You do see Joey stand there.
Because right now we got this really fucking stupid meta where we got a main healer and an off healer. Yo, let me tell you about this main healer. They don't do any DPS. They just heal. So if no one's healing, they're standing there, dick in hand. That mentality is so fucking stupid. It is so fucking
Hey,
stupid.
man. That's way better than the old meta of both
It's
healers
so
doing that.
fucking stupid. There is no main healer. Yo, newsflash right now. Yo, listen up. There is no main healer. There is no off healer. You know what? I'm about to blow your fucking mind right now. There is no main tank and there is no off tank either.
What?
It's just shared responsibilities. That's what that shit is right there.
Clearly, you've never
There are
played
2
with a
tanks
shield
and
of
2
paladin.
healers.
But you see that a lot, though. You
Yeah.
see one healer, they'll be DPSing the entire time, and the other healer will just be healing, and then they'll stand there with, they'll stand there, fucking
Waiting for damage to
Yeah,
happen.
exactly. That's so fucking stupid. Like
Yeah,
the
and-
combined healer damage is so abysmally low. Like it's just absurd.
Yeah, and I think
Is there a main
Especially-
and off DPS?
like
Well,
especially
yeah,
in
the
this
off
game-
DPS only do more if they want to hit positionals and do additional damage.
Gotcha.
Yeah, if you have a DPS and if they just stood around and decided to do nothing and just like walk around for a bit for like 5-10 seconds, right? People would be like, "Yo, what the fuck are you doing? You're supposed to be fighting. Why are you just like not casting anything?" Yet somehow healers get away with it all the time because hey, they're a healer. They're not supposed to DPS, right? So it's like they're waiting for damage to happen. But I think that's kind of that's definitely not how you play a healer in this game. That's definitely not optimal. So there's a lot more you could be contributing if you're not healing.
I think it's a big misconception that you'll gain more healer damage. Like, okay, so like if you look on flogs and stuff, man, like you'll see like typically scholars will be way higher than their co-healer, and that's just because like they're
They get a
in
broil
cleric
cramp.
the entire fucking time, right? And that's really bad because if you have, okay, so let's say you have one healer at like 100 DPS, the other healer at like 1100, but then you take another group and both healers are like 800, that is so much more damage. You know what I mean? Like between the two of them, that's what should be important is the combined damage, not single damage.
Do you mean to tell me that a scholar spamming Blizzard 2 is less damage than an Astra spamming Gravity? No, I don't believe you.
I mean, you have to
Wait,
check
what?
my math, but you know.
What were you gonna say, Jeff?
Oh yeah, yeah. Healers often fall into the trap of believing that, like I don't know, that what I'm trying to say is like doing damage can also translate to less healing.
Oh, for sure.
In a fight like A12 Savage, literally the first thing you skip, like as your DPS improves, is just this mess at the end, where everyone's taking damage all at once, different types of damage, and
The puddles?
like followed by a split AoE and then a massive party room-wide AoE that you can't like mitigate significantly. Like it's just a mess. And I'm talking about the second puddles. And
Oh yeah.
if you're in a group that doesn't have healers DPS, you have no like you'll go to the entire patch in the next 6 months and you'll never be able to skip that. And that's just not fun. Like you're making your job a lot harder by refusing to or not contributing
Like
according to the meta. Yeah.
I remember seeing groups that see 4 or 5 sets of puddles. They are way better than we are at that fight.
Man, we could barely
Dude,
even handle 2 sets of
we
puddles.
can't do 2.
We can
Like,
barely handle 1 set of
And
puddles.
then I see those guys getting 5, dude, and I'm like, holy
These guys are
cow.
really fucking good at
These
this
guys
game.
are so good, man.
Oh man. Yeah. But yeah. Anyway, wow. Okay. Anyway.
Shots, holy.
Okay, yeah, but yeah, going back to what you said about healer DPS, that's completely true, and I think players like this goes into like something else that I would consider it being um, to be a good player. Um, I think a good player enables their teammates to become good as well, right? So specifically, like I guess if we're talking healers, it's one thing to be putting out high DPS, and it's totally something else to to simultaneously enable your healer to do that too. And the whole main healer, off healer, that model, I think it just straight up sucks. And people don't realize that. People like it because it's simple. It's just like, okay, you're the main healer, so you're gonna heal. You're gonna try to solo heal everything as much as you possibly can. And if there's no damage coming out,
They
then
get the
you can
full
DPS.
brunt of the blame.
Yeah,
too.
but you're number one. You're the front line of defense.
Yep.
And then the other healer, the off healer, you DPS as much as possible, and you only heal when the main healer needs you.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is, you're overloading one healer, so they're not able to maintain their dots. So those are their most efficient damage spells, and they're not putting them into their maximum use because they're getting suffocated with all the healing that they have to do. Meanwhile, the other, the scholar is spamming broil, which is the weakest nuke out of all of them, right? Which
Yep.
makes no sense. And in addition to that, you're not using the most efficient healing spells the way that they're supposed to be used. A really good healing duo, they kind of have a hierarchy, or like a priority system, where it's like, okay, what are our most efficient heals? Well, we have Embrace, which is free, it comes from the Fairy. Whispering Dawn, again, comes from the Fairy. And we have Essential Dignity, which is free. Right? These cost, they don't even cost the GCD, and they don't cost any MP. So that's your first line of defense. The next line of defense are super efficient spells like your regens, your aspected benefic, your medica 2s, and aspected helios. These are your most efficient healing spells, right? And Indom, they come at a cost, but the investment that you put into these heals are much less than something like, what I consider your last line of defense, which are, Cure 1, Cure 2s, Benefics, Adlos, Physics, Medicas, Suckers. Those are the last heals you want to do. So you only use that when you've exhausted all other options, right? So when you're able to kind of heal in unison and use all those spells along with your co-healer, that's when you've kind of reached the next level, where you're both using your healing spells so efficiently that you have a lot more time and mana to spend towards DPS. But yeah, anyway, anything else about what it means to be a good player?
I think we belabored the point a little bit.
Okay.
That's why we're all here.
Yo, am I unmuted? Okay, here we go. Okay, so we cover like CPM. So what about like communication, decision making, and attitude? I think attitude is pretty big, actually.
So these are things that are kind of independent of what buttons you're pressing, right? These are kind of like,
This is the person instead of the player.
I think so.
The player behind the person behind the player, yeah, or whatever. Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
go.
well, because all right, so I think that, okay, so let's say you take like a skilled player, right, and they're obviously pretty good, like, they're hitting their buttons in the correct order, whatever, but their attitude is like kind of shit. So let's say like that it's clearly obvious that this player is slightly more skilled than the rest of the group, right? But because their attitude is so shit, they're actually like bringing down their group, so like, or those people that like keep track of mistakes or some shit like that, right? And like Like I really hate that, especially like when it has to do with healing or tanking, and a DPS is saying some shit, right? Like I've helped groups before where like a DPS has been the quote unquote raid leader. Okay, I mean I don't really agree with the raid leader thing, like, but that's just me. But I just don't really join groups that have that kind of system. But anyway, but like basically what I'm trying to say is like, so the quote unquote raid leader will try to, because they're slightly better or they believe that they're slightly better, their attitude is really shitty because they'll try to tell their tanks and healers how to do stuff when they don't have like full knowledge, you know what I mean? And just that attitude will like just because they're a good player or just because like they're a skilled player, that doesn't necessarily make them a good player, I think. And that type of attitude mentality is really irritating to me because like I've helped groups like that, but when I go help them, like they don't tell me that shit because like I'll shit on them. Like I don't even care. Like I don't give a fuck. Like if you're saying some stupid shit, I'll just shit on you. I don't even fucking care because when I say some stupid shit, you guys shit on me. So that's just how my mentality is, you know. But like that type of stuff though, it's really bad. It's really harmful to the group actually because like I think that the attitude, like if someone fucks up or something, then they're obviously gonna feel bad, or they should at least feel bad. You know, there's no reason to like dwell on the situation. You know, it should just be like, okay, I fucked up. Here's why I fucked up, and then boom, that's it. We'll move on. You know, and unless it happens like multiple times over and over and over again, there's really not like a case. You know, like there really shouldn't be a case to like hold grudges or try to keep track of people's mistakes. It's like, okay, well, you know, you did this here and this here and you know this here. It's like, okay, motherfucker, well, what did you do? You know, let's see all like what you did. You know,
they used to keep a spreadsheet on how many times people would fuck up so they could lord it over them.
Who was?
Oh my god,
who did?
I'm not mentioning names.
Oh, okay.
do I know this person? Oh, whatever.
But anyway,
I think,
what do you guys think? Yeah.
I think it's important to like not try to talk about other people's stuff. Part of like having a functioning group is that everyone communicates well and everyone's proactive. So like even talking to someone about their job, maybe you don't know every detail of what they're doing, but like you can still talk about things, like of course respecting that they are the authority on the subject in your group.
Can we like succinctly say it's like good player takes criticism, you know, not afraid to receive criticism.
Gives good criticism.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's critical of others
way.
in a constructive way.
Yeah, we'll talk about more about constructive
Yeah.
criticism. That is a huge topic, but we'll definitely talk about that more later for sure.
But yeah, I feel like that's probably one of the biggest things is owning up to your mistakes.
Yeah, there's a lot of
just
people
being a
that
good
are
teammate,
afraid
you know?
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of people that are afraid to like admit, you know, that they fucked up and stuff. And I just like you can always get better, like when you fuck up and I don't know, man. Like you really like it's okay to wipe, you know. It's okay to cause like a wipe if you're like trying something, as long as you learn from it, you know, because then you know it should never happen again, you know, or at least the identical situation should never happen again, at least. But
Yeah, owning up to your mistakes is part of just being a pleasant person to be around. Like when I don't know, it all comes down to like being a fun person to play with. Like if you can't play your job very well, it's not fun depending on the group and their goal. And I don't know, if people enjoy playing with you, then you'll get more opportunities to play and improve. And, that's what's important to becoming good.
Like before, I guess this is kind of an example. Like before we picked up Ella, we played with a bard that probably 30 percentile player. Didn't do much damage, but he was a good player. He took good criticism well. He did whatever the team needed. He wasn't self-oriented. He was team-oriented. So like we never would have looked to rep him.
We never
because he was a good player.
we never needed Payon or Ballad.
Yeah.
I mean, we never had to ask for it anyway.
Yeah,
That motherfucker was
So, like,
always up, dude.
Yeah, so like even if you're not the greatest at your role, as long as you're like team-oriented player and you're not like, I don't know. I guess that's kind of my point. Is you don't have to be like the best ever at your role, but as long as you're like working as a team, you want to improve the team as much as you can. I think that's another mentality that helps a lot to be a good player. All right, should we move on?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So
Right. So we talk about what it means to be a good player. How do you get there? So,
ways to improve your knowledge and skill.
yeah. So how do you improve your knowledge and skill level?
Well, we talking about practice.
Oh my god.
Yo, we
talk
talking about practice, man.
I think this is where you sell out your YouTube channel, Zeno.
Oh yeah. Okay. So
you're improving, become a good player.
yeah. So
you got your guide.
yeah. So if you wanna get good, I do make videos and I do stream from time to time. Let me just plug that in there.
Good job. All right.
Okay.
All right, well, all right, let's go. Let's continue.
But anyway, no. Okay. So practice. We talking about practice. How and where do you practice? What is your goal when you practice? I would say the very basic, the starting point of practice is the opener and your basic rotations. And where you do that? On the training dummy. That's where you do that shit. That's where you start, at least in my opinion, because the opener is very, very important. It's very, very important. And like, if you have, now I know a dummy doesn't have like mechanics and shit, like it doesn't, but that doesn't mean that it's not helpful, because you can practice, we'll say, like, let's say you do like a 3 or 4 minute parse or whatever. Well, in those 3 or 4 minutes, you're going to see where your offensive cooldowns line up. So in an ideal situation, you'll at least have like a basic understanding of where you should be in your combo and what offensive buffs
You shouldn't
will
have
be
to think
available.
about. Yeah, you shouldn't have to think
Yeah.
about what's happening. You should kind of have intrinsic knowledge of what you should be doing next on your class.
Yeah, like it's okay. So it's kind of a different beast to figure out. Can I get like an extra shadow thing, or like before the boss jumps away? Like that's kind of like the next, like
That's
kind of
fight
like the
knowledge.
next.
That's not
Yeah,
bare basic.
yeah, but like if you're gonna want to do like just average DPS, just start on a dummy, because it will really show you a lot, because it'll show you like, like I was saying, like when your offensives are gonna come up. And because maybe your, like, we'll say your blood for blood comes up at kind of like a weird timing, and you're like on 2 when you need to be like on 4. So at least you'll know that. You know what I mean? Like at least you'll be aware of that. So you won't just hit your blood for blood like right when it comes off cooldown. You'll have to know that, okay, I remember from practice that I have to wait like, X amount of GCDs, just as like a small example. But I think a dummy is like the very basic place to start, because it'll really help you with your opener. Definitely your opener. That's probably the most beneficial, I think. But also like a basic understanding of your rotation. But
You should also start by fighting more balls, because those are hard.
Marbles, really?
Yeah, so that was my first the first time I realized I was bad. I couldn't get out of bad breath in time. I died to a Morball 2 times.
Wow. As far as practice goes, I think EX primals are my favorite place to practice, and there isn't a whole lot of like duty finderable, raid finderable stuff in this game that actually throws enough mechanics at you that you have to heal a lot, you have to dodge a lot and stuff like that. But EX primals is usually that I guess that it's an appropriate level of challenge that's like easily accessible, right? So trying to carry an EX primal group in Raid Finder, or even just from Party Finder, I find that's really valuable practice. If there's anything to practice on, if there's a goal, my goal is to keep my CPM up, honestly, and just try to get as much cast as possible. And um, one thing about playing this game is I've pretty much, we're all human, and every person has a finite level of focus. You have this limited amount of focus, and some of that focus has to go towards your rotation and healing and DPS and just your basic fundamentals, and the rest of the focus goes towards the fight specific things like when to dodge, what the next phase is, and stuff like that. And the more you're thinking about your GCDs, the less room in your brain you have to think about those other things. So when you're committing things to muscle memory by practicing on other fights, practicing your stance dancing and triple fell cleaves and how to lining up your berserks perfectly and stuff like that, or whatever class specific nuances you have. If you practice all those things, it'll become second nature. You don't have to spend as much of your focus on doing those basic things, and you can spend more of it on the actual fight itself, right? That alone will make you a better player. So I don't know. I used to practice a ton in EX Primals, and I think it's a great place.
Back when Titan taught you everything you needed to know about the game.
Exactly. Yeah. Even to this day, like Sophia EX, like it's so accessible now in Raid Finder, and it's good practice for all classes. I mean, you could always get better, and a lot of that stuff transfers over to other fights too, right?
Another thing about practicing in primals and stuff is, like, you join a party with the intent to kill something, and maybe it's like it's not good. People aren't doing their jobs very well. There's a lot of deaths, and you have a choice. You could be like really shitty about it and just like kind of get everyone kind of upset with each other or you or with the fight, or you could just go with it and be like, well, maybe I'm not accomplishing my goal of killing it right now, but this is an opportunity to practice. I don't want to mess up because you can't just instantly get into fights most of the time, at least the ones that you want to be working on.
Yeah. And you don't necessarily know the people in Raid Finder, so you're not going to get judged as hard.
Yeah, dude, everybody's a shitter in Raid Finder. Just fucking join the masses, man.
Exactly.
No one will notice. It's okay.
Exactly. You're just one of the hive mind,
Right,
so there's like, so another way is there's like a bunch of different resources. Like there's guides, there's streams, recordings, there's other players, there's ACT, there's vlogs. I honestly think we could do an entire fucking show on ACT and vlogs. It's just really important.
Probably.
Man. It's just
like
that kind of shit is just really, really important.
Or how do you use ACT and vlogs to get better? You personally?
Well, there's like, okay, I'll just say like a couple ways because there's like a million different ways. There's like a million different fucking ways, but one of the things I do is I actually check incoming damage to see how much I took. Well, this is coming from a tank perspective, obviously. But,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
so yeah, I guess we'll just say that. So from a tank perspective, one of the ways I use vlogs is I judge the incoming damage, because I want to be able to turn off my tank stance, or I want to be able to figure out what CDs I can have up to compensate for it, so I can do more damage. So that's just one of the ways. And another way, I don't really use ACT for this. I more use vlogs for this. But when you're planning out your CDs in a fight, sometimes you have to, like when you do like speed runs or something, you have to use your CDs in a really fucking stupid way. So like to take A9 for example, you're only going to get 3 berserks in A9. So to line those 3 up, at least to the best of my knowledge, you actually have to use berserk right before the pull. So you actually go berserk and then like overpower.
Wait, you dirty pull it?
Yeah. This is like
is this
is
A7
the
level
filthy pull.
You get an extra activation of berserk towards the end if
Yeah.
you do that, right?
Yeah, and it's kind of cool. As like disgusting as it is, it's kind of cool because it makes it line up with the second set of ads. So if if you use Berserk, so basically it goes like 5, 4, 3, 2, Zerk, Overpower, Equilibrium, Deliverance. So you're getting all that shit. Like you're getting all the extra aggro, and I know it seems really bad, but you still get your 2 Fell Cleaves in, and it's really bad right there, but it makes it really good for like the rest of the fight. Because your Berserk will come up again right before the second adds, and then it'll come up again before you kill the boss. Whereas
So you found out all of this through Flogs?
through Flogs and other players
Yeah.
Okay.
and testing different. Yeah,
I always thought Flogs was just, you know, a tape measure to measure the size of your DPS.
I mean,
You're-
I think Flogs gets a really bad rap, man. Like some people are like, "Oh, I don't parse. That's elitist." Like, man, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Get the fuck out of here. Like, I don't even want
It's
to hear
such
that
a
shit.
valuable tool, you know, just like overall.
Yeah, like that is such a bitchy and whiny excuse. Oh, you're elite. Like, shut up. Like, just fucking get the fuck out of here, man. Come on.
Wow, tell us how you really feel.
I
you know?
mean, it's just so That's like, dude.
I agree with you,
that's
though. I
just
agree
so
with you.
fucking
It's
bitchy,
such
dude.
it's a really closed-minded way of looking at it. I mean, people only see it as a, because they kind of, I think they just, I don't mean to be, you know, a freaking psychology expert over here, but I think it's just kind of a defense mechanism. You know, this is that people feel threatened by Flogs, and it's just another way for them to be judged poorly and
Yeah, I think so,
made to be
too.
felt, you know, to feel bad about their performance or whatever. But I don't know. I think it's much more than that. Like what you said. I mean, you figured out all that through Flogs.
Yeah.
I kind of do something similar too. Sorry, what, Chet?
Oh, I was gonna say I use it to like compare notes because I kind of plan my cooldowns for a fight, and then I look at what other people do. I'm like, oh, and I try and reason why they do that, and then sometimes I confirm that my usage is better, or I change the way I use CDs, you know, because of it. So like, I don't know. That's what I use it for.
Yeah, like
Also, I see how many blood weapons I miss compared to other people. You know, it's like you can compare. Oh, I missed an activation here or something like that too. I don't know.
So basically, do we all do that? Do we all just creep on other people's FF
Oh,
logs?
that's all.
I creep
I creep.
too.
Yeah.
I creep.
Do you think people creep on us? Probably. I don't know. I hope.
I
so.
mean,
I hope not.
I hope-
Actually.
Why not?
I mean,
Well, because,
love
I mean, sometimes
creepers, so
sometimes
I
we'll
would hope
just be like,
someone was creeping.
Some
this
people
is
will be like,
odd.
I wonder why he uses cooldown here.
That's odd. I wonder why he's opens fights without
realistically,
clerics
I just
stance
fat
on.
fingered it. Yeah. or
Why?
some
Why
shit
would
like that.
he? Why would he not have clerics on his
Okay.
opener? This is bizarre.
But yeah, I do that too. I have a list of like, I have a list of a short list of Astros whom I really look up to and really respect, right? And I'll look to see how they handle certain phases, and you can do that by going through their casts. It takes a little bit of digging, but you can see where they used certain cooldowns, how they handled certain phases, and when I look at another Astro to see how they handle it, one of two things will happen. One, I can look at the way they do it and be like, holy shit, this is so smart. This is way better than how I do it. I'm going to copy their idea and completely steal their idea, right?
Yeah.
So that's one thing that could happen. The other thing that could happen is, oh, their way sucks. My way is
Yeah.
way better.
Yep,
So
that's exactly
it's a
what we do.
win-win. I mean, if
Yeah.
you think about it, it's a win-win because
You either confirm
on
your
one hand,
ideas,
yeah,
or
you're more confident in your idea,
yeah.
right? Or you found a better way to do things that you never thought of before. So it's a win-win. And people kind of overlook that possibility with Flogs is creeping other people's and just ripping their ideas, or at least, you know, putting more confidence in your idea. But yeah, there's a short list of Astros that I really look up to. They probably have no idea that I creep their shit, but but I do, and yeah, it's made me like way better. And the other thing is, like you said, you know, you can check your own casts. That's one of the first things I started doing. Was like the first thing I ever healed as an Astro main was A7 prog, and when we beat it, I was just like, yeah, I thought I did a great job. And I look at my cast and I'm just like, what? In like a 10-minute fight, I used Essential Dignity like 3 times. That's pretty pathetic. And I used Sinistry like 4 times. I could have used it probably at least once or twice more. And you don't notice those things until you actually, you know, evaluate yourself on Flogs and give yourself your like a report card, right? yeah.
Like yeah, but well, that's what I was saying about the A9 or whatever. Like I tried, using like Zerk like after the first GCD, and because it felt so fucking, oh man, it felt so wrong to use it before the poll, man. But it's actually the best. Like I tried one GCD after. It's about the same one GCD after. The only thing you lose is the extra threat you get from overpower and equilibrium. But using a GCD doesn't it doesn't like yield you any more damage. So it's better just to use it there. But like it's kind of cool because like even though I didn't use flogs to necessarily increase my like, I mean, yes, it did yield a DPS increase, but that wasn't originally why I started to look for that. But I actually adopted that in a very similar way to like the way that like our static does it. Because I used to build 5 so I could so I could do a triple at the beginning, but it's actually that's why I started to do the dream pull on 9, is because before I wouldn't use Zerk, but now because I know that if you use Zerk that soon, you'll be able to get 3 activations. So it kind of changed the way that I did it. So like not only did it change the way how I do it in like SR runs, but it also changes the way I do it like normally. So now like not only did
What are SR runs?
speed runs or sorry speed
No,
no they're
speed
speed
run
run runs.
Speed run?
They're speed run runs.
Sorry,
It's
just
kind of
wanted
like
to make
Rip
you
in
say it.
Pieces. They're speed run runs. Yeah,
Okay,
but
sorry, continue.
yeah, but basically, yeah, what I was trying to get at is that flogs, even though it's a damage calculator and shit, it will really help you in other ways too, like with CD usage and shit like that. So I think that's a really good way to use flogs as well, even though it like people think that it's only for damage and like that kind of shit, but it's really not. You can use it for a lot of other ways too. You can also use it to see when the boss's attacks are coming, and like you run those scripts, right? Where you actually like you plan out everything on a fight.
Special timer or something.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
the frickin' timeline
the
add-on?
timeline. Yeah.
Hell yeah, I love that. I actually write my own scripts for it, just for myself, right? It's pretty easy to do once you have it figured out, but yeah, basically it tells me exactly when everything happens. So even now that we've done the fight like a billion times, it still benefits me a lot as a healer because I know, like even on A9, it's like a scrap is going to happen exactly 8 seconds from now, so I could do 2 or 3 DPS spells before I have to heal you, right? So even something like that, because no matter how much experience I have in a fight, I can't really. I don't know. I'm not skilled enough to know exactly when something's going to happen down to the second. So, but yeah, FF logs help me kind of figure out the boss's rotation, figure out exactly what he does and when. And even if I don't use those timelines, the fact that I've looked it up on flogs actually kind of helped me memorize what the boss does and when, which is pretty important for a healer. So, I don't know, anything else on ACT and flogs?
Man.
I know one thing that me and Chet do this all the time, and when people think of ACT, they just think of it as a parser to look at how much damage they did, but I think a big part, especially in prog, and just for everyone's personal improvement, is sometimes you'll just die and you're just like, how the fuck did I die? What happened there? And nobody's really sure, but you could always look it up on your ACT. And if you're good enough at being an ACT detective, you can kind of diagnose what went wrong, and so you know where to correct the problem.
I'm really good at looking at blood for blood, see if that was the cause. I'm really good
Yeah,
at that.
exactly.
Or Claire
How
stands.
did you die? And you go back and
Detective Bok Choy and Chet and Sidekick Chet.
It's like, I don't know how I died there. I popped on my cooldown. It's like, bullshit, you took 38k damage. You did not pop a cooldown.
Well, that's just because they use the cooldown after the hit, man. Didn't you know that? That's how you're supposed to fucking do it, apparently.
Yeah, exactly.
My CD's on cooldown, therefore I mitigated the damage.
Yeah. I think if you can't properly diagnose what happened, how can you possibly learn from it if you don't really know what happened? and ACT is a huge tool for that. And you can look at your ACT and you can say, oh, the tank wasn't topped, or how much damage did he take, right? So it's just like, okay, was this mitigated, or did he just need to be topped? And maybe it's a combination of both, or maybe it's totally something else, right? And ACT doesn't lie; it has all the answers. You just have to kind of dig for it.
You never have to wonder why something happened.
Yeah.
You can just call people on their bullshit. It's great.
It's just like sometimes, man, like sometimes I'll help groups and the tank will just die like out of nowhere. And actually, okay, so this was way back in the day, man. I was helping this T13 group, and I was on and I was filling in, like I was paladin because their warrior was there. Actually, this was Meta's old group. Actually, oh god, that healer was so awful. Anyway,
Wow.
so I said, so I get hit with flatten, right? And I take a ridiculous amount of damage. And then I'm like, okay, well, I had Rampart and fucking Shield Oath, man. So, like, did you not, like, ad low me there or anything? And he's like, oh, no, I did. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to check ACT. And he didn't fucking ad low, and I was like, yeah, so you didn't ad low me there because it's not an ACT. He was like, oh, no, I did. And I was just like, okay, well, I know you didn't, and it's fine. You can continue to lie, but I know you didn't. So next time for that flatten, make sure you fucking ad low me. Like,
So you
like, yeah.
use ACT to bully people.
Yeah, well, no,
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is, right? It's like, okay, okay, like, this is a fucking lie detector, you moron. Like, are you serious right now? You want me to take your word over ACT? Are you fucking crazy right now?
Are you
ACT
freaking kidding
is
me?
love, man. Yeah, like, get the fuck out of here, man. Like, whatever. So, I mean, that's what I said. I was like, okay, you can, like, that's fine, you're lying, it's whatever, but just next time, like, whatever gets you through the day, like, next time there's going to be a flat in there, so I need a fucking ad low, or I'm going to die again, because here's the CDs I use. Like, I've already killed this fight, like, 100, like, up, a lot, right? I've already killed this shit, so I already know what the fuck I'm supposed to do. I'm here to help, like, I'm here to help you, so you need to, like, get your shit together. It's just like, are you kidding me? you're gonna lie to the help? Like, are you stupid? Doesn't make any fucking sense, right? But anyway, so that's.
Jeff, you've been quiet.
I really like ACT for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything to add about ACT and flogs and how that improves a DPS main?
Yeah. Well, they're all really important. I think you shouldn't forget that just recording yourself and watching a video of it can teach you a lot as well. Because
So
having that
watching
external
your own
perspective,
personal recording?
well, watching me play is probably the biggest source of improvement I make in retrospect or in planning. However, yeah, there's just a couple situations where the answer to the problem before me is very I don't know, it's unclear. Like say I'm a monk and I'm building Grease Lightning stacks, or I'm a dragoon and dragoon exists, and I have Blood of the Dragon timings to try to work out. Like things like that are not clear all the time. Definitely, it really helps to see who did the best on the fight, or who did really well in the fight, and what decisions they made in those stressful, those moments of uncertainty.
We always look at the number 8 guy because the number 1 guy got to hit 12 ads 15 times.
Well, yeah, the number 1 guy was he had single target everything from the Astro, which there's forms of optimization you can do when you're being catered like that don't exist outside of normal play, like the monk rotation and the dragoon stuff changes significantly if you're being fed arrows.
Yeah.
However, and the players that pull that stuff off, none of most of them are already pretty good too. Even though they're getting catered, catering can only go so far. It needs a really solid basis of player skill to really turn into a top parse. So I wouldn't say that their parses are worthless.
I don't know. Yeah, you can click on them and then look at one of their lower parses. for
Yeah.
their style of play that isn't catered.
Right. The to go back to what you said earlier about recording yourself, I think that's like super duper beneficial too. Like, do
I
you
can't
ever
even load
cringe
into
when you watch?
Idleshire, dude. Can you imagine if I recorded myself?
Didn't
But
you say when
do you
we
ever
did turn
cringe when you
5, you
watch-
like when you were on Warrior, you didn't even use MAME for like
Oh,
like a minute and a half
dude,
or
if you guys want to
what'd
see,
you?
if you want to see some high level gameplay, there's a video of me and Zeno where we swapped. I went Warrior and he went Paladin on turn 5, and I legit think I went without using MAME for at least a solid 4 minutes of that. I don't even know what I was doing, dude. It
Right.
was awful.
Yeah. So, well, even right now, like when you watch yourself play, like I've watched footage of myself play. It's always like it's really I don't know, cringy because all you see are your own mistakes, right? But that's such a good thing because it makes you self-aware of what you're doing wrong. And you know how when you watch someone else play, you always see all the mistakes that they make, but when you make the same mistakes, you don't see them because you're just kind of, you're in your gamer stance and you're just kind of focused on the fight and you don't realize the little mistakes that you're making until you rewatch yourself, right? And another thing is that when you watch other players, you watch them make decisions that you wouldn't make, so you try to put yourself in their shoes. It's like, why would they make that decision? And maybe they're onto something that you haven't thought of, or maybe they're just doing it wrong, and your way is better. And it kind of goes back to what we said earlier, on like, when you watch somebody else play or kind of analyze how somebody else handles a certain part of the fight. Either you're going to pick up on their idea or you're going to decide that the way you're doing it is better than theirs, right? And it's the same thing when you're watching someone else. And you know how we used to watch people play Hearthstone,
Yep.
right? And what you do is you pause it, you make a decision, and then you play it, and you see what they do, and it's completely different from what you did, but you start to appreciate why they made a different decision. And you can kind of do the same thing with watching other people's past broadcasts and stuff like that too.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't ever watch my. Actually, you know what? There's one video that I can never rewatch.
Please,
I
why
can't make it
every
through
Unchained? Every Unchained.
I cannot
why?
make it through. I can't, dude.
Stop.
I cannot
Why?
make it through this vid. Like,
But you can't watch the video, but you can bring it up every Unchained.
well, I
Yo,
mean,
play the
it's
video,
it's
play the
it's
video, let's see it.
legendary, man.
No, all right,
like I had
okay.
to make the like. Do you know how hard it was for me to make that video? I had like
man.
I luckily I didn't watch the whole thing all the way through, but I just watched it in portions. But the video that I personally cannot watch. It is too cringy. It's too cringy. Is that the home gang video? I'll link it. I mean, I'm not gonna watch it, but I'll link it.
When
Okay.
you said can't watch, I knew what you were gonna link. Every Unchained, dude. Every Unchained.
I mean,
Okay.
it's legendary.
So anything else on how to, I guess, I don't know, ways to improve knowledge and skill level? Anything else?
I think we're good.
We good? Jeff? Zeno?
Sorry, hold on. I was linking that. Yeah. I'm good. I pretty much fucking said everything I needed to say. I had to hold back on talking about vlogs and stuff, but yeah.
Okay.
We could probably do a whole fucking episode on vlogs, man. Anyway, okay. So the next topic is let me copy this real quick. Okay, improving on a team level. Okay, so
we already covered some of the aspects of team play when we talked about individuals' roles, because it wouldn't be a role if it didn't fit into a bigger picture somehow. So
Right. So how does one accommodate players of another role? Or even or how about just the tank to tank synergy, or healer synergy, stuff like that. So how does that get better? What do you do to make that better? So since we have both tanks, Zeno and Chet, what do you
Yeah.
guys what does good tank synergy look like?
Good tanks.
Well, I think all right, and this kind of goes back to the whole like main tank and off tank mentality. Like, if you have all right, so if in your group you have a tank that is always in their DPS stand, or I'm sorry, that always in their tank stance, you're doing it wrong. You're fucking up. You're fucking up. And the reason why is because like there is no main tank in this game. There is no
Yeah.
off tank. Like I'll
Instead
see it
of-
all the time in like Party Finder, right? Like looking for main tank. Well, what the fuck does that actually mean? Because like to me, like so then the other tank isn't gonna have aggro at all on the boss, like never, not one time throughout the entire fight. Like that's very confusing to me.
Yeah,
Because
instead of a Dark Knight Warrior, you have a Dark Warite, right? You have like instead of having Shadow Skin,
A what?
and a Dark Warite, right? So you shouldn't think of just this tank having aggro and using these cooldowns. You have to think about using Vengeance for it as well. Even if the Warrior or the Dark Knight has aggro, you know you can do tank swap there because that is inclusive. You know, you don't just have the one tanks class list of defensive CDs. You have to think about the guy that's doing the off tank role as well. You know, that has to be a part of the consideration.
yeah, like I like too many people think about, okay, well this tank has this amount of cooldowns, he'll tank the whole time. That's not necessarily like no, it shouldn't be that way. You have two tanks and you have between them what, like 8 fucking cooldowns. So between those 8 cooldowns or whatever, like you have so much room to try to optimize like who's tanking what when. And like typically like you want a Dark Knight or a Paladin to be taking damage, but ironically it's not because they're more tanky. It's just because they benefit from taking damage. But on certain parts, a warrior will
Reprisal
benefit.
and low blow
Yeah,
procs, right?
yeah, like reprisal and blood price and low blow and shield swipe.
Like I think a good example of like tank synergy is like 10 minutes in, or like I guess that's too long. Like 7 minutes into a fight, like on 12, I started to have aggro issues. So the change that we made to the aggro issues was Zeno used Butcher's Block and Unchained, and that sets me up 8 minutes later into the fight. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, like at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I take a 5% damage hit on 2 GCDs, but because those 2 GCDs happen to generate like a million threat, it lets the threat is GG after that, and so is like power slash shit. Like,
So what the Dark Knight gains is way more than what you lost from
Oh,
not being
fuck yeah.
Deliverance for
like
those
I would
units.
even argue that 5% damage on 2 GCDs is even a loss, really. Like in comparison to the amount of threat that you, like I value that threat higher than 5% damage on Skull Sunder and Butcher's Block.
Because power slashing sucks. You basically, so as a tank, you guys are, with that little optimization, you've kind of minimized the amount of power slashes that Chet has to do, and he doesn't want to use those obviously because you don't get any MP and it's bad damage, right?
Yeah. So
Right.
it's just like when people think of like a main tank and off tank, it's really bad because it should be a shared tanking responsibility. Like you have 2 tanks, and both of those tanks should look out for each other. So like if you have like it has never made sense to me why like you'll have one tank with 0 cooldowns and you'll have another tank that literally hasn't used a single cooldown and it's like 7 or 8 minutes into the fight. That it never makes sense to me. Like that is so stupid to me. Like actually when I help groups, it depends on what role I'm playing, but if I help groups and they're used to, so let's say there's a group on farm and they need a fill in, like and I'm tanking. Well, now because I'm tanking, we're doing stuff a smart way. We're not going to do shit the way, like now sometimes the way that they do shit is kind of a dumb way where like Like, for instance, they have the paladin pull every time. No. Like, if I'm going to help a group, we're going to do shit to the best of our abilities. Now, that may or may not be the best way to help groups, but my point is that, like, that mentality that they learn during prog of a main tank and an off tank is really, really bad, and it actually makes things harder for them than it seems. And I don't know why so many groups do that. It just perplexes me, because why would you want to make the fight harder? Why would you want to make the fight harder? Like, when you, okay, so like, let's say an A10, right? You pull is like a paladin. Well, your damage is going to be absolute shit. Your healer, like, you're going to need a heal. Like, so therefore, oh, and your threat is going to be shit too. So you're going to have lower healer damage, lower tank damage, and lower threat. Why would you want all three of those things when you can just make a very simple change to have the warrior pull and unchain? It doesn't make any sense to me why groups don't think about that kind of stuff. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why would you want to make a fight harder?
They're stuck in that mindset of main tank, off tank.
So to sort of, summarize the whole thing that we kind of talked about, a good team with good teamwork is willing to change their strategy. I know one of the pitfalls that pretty much every raider I've ever come across is changing strategy. Oh man, raiders hate to do something different, right? This works, why would we change it? But
yeah, exactly.
I feel like a good team, is willing to adapt a strategy differently if it benefits the team overall. Like, pushes out more damage, lessens healer incoming damage, makes melee get more uptime. All of those things are important on a team level. Willingness to change, even though raiders hate doing that.
Yeah, I think we I think we kind of went into like the next the next portion of this without realizing it, but basically but basically to sum up, like, just what we started was with like tank the tank synergy is, I think that more tanks should work better with each other. And like, I don't know why, but I see this a lot too, and it's like this big dick ego kind of thing, like, yo, I'm the main tank, you gotta listen to what I say, I'm the fucking leader here, that shit. Like, why would you have that mentality? It doesn't make any sense, like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, who cares? And then, like, some people think that just because you pull the boss, that you're the main tank. What kind of fucking sense does that make either? It doesn't, okay, I could go on a long time about this, but I'm just going to cut it off, and I'm just going to simply say, man, I think more tanks should work with each other and figure out not who is the main tank and the off tank, but who is going to benefit the group more by tanking. That's the thing that I think is that if more tanks thought about it in a sense of, okay, well, if I'm tanking here, how is it going to benefit the raid versus if you're tanking here, how is it going to benefit the raid? Because the goal is to be as tanky and do as much damage as possible. Like, that's the goal.
While mitigating the most amount of damage.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you guys do a lot of tank swaps that a lot of other groups wouldn't think of, just because it conserves cooldowns. And I love the fact that you guys do that. It actually helps the healers out a lot.
Like, I could mitigate this just Shadowskin or just Darkmind, or Xeno could use Vengeance, Thrill, Rod
and then
Tuition,
swap back, right?
And then we can just swap back.
Yeah, I love that shit. We already talked a lot about healer optimization in the earlier section, so I won't get too much more into that. But on a speedrun level, or even if you're just trying to optimize, the goal is to do as little healing as possible and as little overheal as possible. So, so you don't want to do stuff like top off the whole party before Photon or something like that, because you're just going to have to AoE heal the party anyway. So as far as healer optimization, that, and stuff that hasn't already been said, there's that. Jeff, is there what do DPS think about when it comes to team optimizations, or are they less involved?
Think about punishing the boss
killing the boss quickly.
Will this let me
But
punch
also
the boss harder?
that one button that I have, I look at my bar, and I see this button that sometimes that's usually, you know,
Off cooldown?
it's usually off cooldown. It's just sitting there. It's called mantra.
Oh man, I remember when we
I-
talked
What's
about
that? I've
half,
never seen it before.
I remember that. I remember when we talked for half an hour one night about how to use mantra.
Yeah. Well, okay, so DPS have little abilities that will help, and they do help, and the contribution they make if you place it right is actually quite significant. Like in A8 Savage, we had viruses, you know, weak viruses going out on those orbs that, you know, explode when they hit the center of the arena, and that really helped relieve the stress of that situation. But yeah, like really figuring out where they're best needed. If it's mantra on a monk, like, you know, during an ultimate where nothing happens for 15 seconds and there's damage and nothing happens for 15 seconds, like, is where a lot of people use mantra, but I honestly don't, like, I think if you use it there, it should be incidental to, like, you know, you just having it and it not interfering with other places. There's a lot of places that are really useful and helps the healers out, and maybe helps the healer save GCDs that you should be investigating for and possibly communicating with your healers, like trying to figure out where they want a thing. Like a good example of when to use mantra is when it can cover both, like, you know, topping off the party after AoE, but also some significant damage going on the tank. Like, there's a lot of places in A12 where there's, you know, Mega Holy, followed by, you know, Cleave, Tank Buster, Cleave. That's an awesome place to get mantra off if you can on the party,
You know,
and on the tank.
As a healer, putting mantra on the tank before like heavy damage is like totally underrated.
It's a free combo.
It's
Yeah, it's a
amazing.
free combo lesson.
And people tend to think that it's only useful when you can hit the whole party with it and for AoE damage, because
As
that's
soon-
when you get the most value. But that's not necessarily true. You
As
could
soon
save
as
me just
7
as
people
much.
get hit instead of 8, it's a waste of cooldown.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Because that you have to heal for that 8th person, right?
Yeah.
One thing
Yeah.
I see a lot of people don't do enough is like whenever they're going to use mantra, uh, like they'll typically be like behind the boss and away from the main tank. Whereas if they go inside the boss's hitbox, but, like, you can still get your positionals. But if you're like, I don't know, this like weird pivot man between the tank and like 6 other party members, you know, you can hit everyone. You know, like if you go inside the like the boss's hitbox.
Yeah. Well, that's another team thing. In 12, there's a lot of situations where mantra can hit the tank and be very useful, and also be useful on the party. But the tank is just hanging out, like standing in max melee range in front of the boss, and there's no way I can get to you if that's the case. Like, something I don't see ever, but I'd like to start seeing if I'm going to try to really min-max like my contribution, like healing cooldown wise with the mantra as monk, is tanks, you know, maybe not standing all the way at the edge, maybe being a little closer to the center when they need the mantra, or as a habit. I think it would be an interesting habit to put into place, except for like AoE tank busters and stuff. But
So the teamwork aspect outside of their DPS is like, you know, working with your team with raid buffs. You know, like litany, you know, battle voice, stuff like that. You know, it's like timing those buffs is part of the team aspect.
and communication is really helpful here. Like,
Yeah.
hey, get in for this mantra, or like this mantra's happening at this time, or litany's happening at this time. Like,
Or stop
Like,
running out my
kinda-
bubble, Doc.
yeah, it
Right?
just, you know, brings their attention to something that maybe they're not looking out for, and they can, you know, act more appropriately and play their job better.
Okay. So a lot of people we we gathered some questions for the question period, but a lot of people asked about constructive criticism, and like, because people, you know, you hear that buzzword all the time. You hear that work, and you hear that like freaking, anything that resembles team environment or that requires teamwork. What is constructive criticism? What does it sound like, and how do you give it, and how do you receive it? I don't know. Anyone?
Well, okay, so like, all right, so for me, like, okay, so because like I group with you guys, and because like I group with, like typically, like if I'm not in like Party Finder, like I'll be, like I'm fortunate enough to be grouped with like some very skilled players. So typically we don't really beat around the bush very much, like, or at least in my experience, whenever I fuck up or something, like it's very, like I'm usually the first one to say it, and I'm usually the first one to figure out a change, or someone to like suggest a change or something like that. So it's pretty straight to the point. So that's kind of how like I give constructive criticism. Like if I go in and help a group, like a learning group, and they're wiping, like chances are I'm just gonna say, yo, the way you're doing this is fucking retarded. Like I'll just straight fucking just boom, just get straight to the point. And here's why it's retarded, and here's what you can do to change it to make it not so retarded.
I don't think telling people that they're retarded for the average listener.
Well,
I don't think your personal
see,
experience is
now,
I know. I think.
I don't disagree with you.
I don't.
Now I don't just now hold on.
There, Zeno.
Hold on, I'm not finished. Hold up, I'm
Okay,
not finished.
let him
Yeah.
finish. Let him
Now I don't disagree with you, but I have been in too many groups. I have helped too many groups where people fucking pussyfoot around and they bullshit and they waste 30, 40, 50 minutes because someone just doesn't want to say, yo, the way we're doing this is fucking stupid. Like, some people...
Sometimes you just got to put the dog down.
Well, you know what? If I fucking... You know what? I'm going to say this shit, man, because like I said earlier, like I don't really care too much about personal feelings. I care about the success rate of the group. If you're going to be like, a super delicate flowering orchid, then you know what? I mean, maybe you should think about, rating again, or maybe you should think about like improving on a different level,
Maybe those two things aren't mutually exclusive, and you can, suggest a strat change without being mean about it, but...
Well, I mean, I don't okay, so it's not like I'm calling them fucking retarded, even though some people, but see, then again, though, that's the thing, because that's the treatment I'm used to. Like, when you guys say that shit to me, I'm like, whoa, you're right. I'm being fucking stupid right now. So then I take that mentality to other groups or other people. And like, sometimes the best tool in your toolkit is a sledgehammer. It's not, you know what I mean? Like, it's not tape or whatever.
Sometimes
like
you have to be a little bit
yeah,
blunt.
like
Okay,
sometimes
fine.
you just have to fucking say it because there's like too many people. There's like too many people that.
Well, okay, in my experience, I find that the more hostile you are in giving your criticism, the less likely you're going to succeed in changing someone's mind, because now they're out to prove to you that that you're stupid, and that I don't think that's really
well, I hope.
conducive
Well,
to
I kind of like that.
Well, you said that your end goal is to ensure the success of the team, but I don't think that's very conducive to success of the team, because now you have an extra hurdle. You have an extra hurdle in the group, and that's the fact that some people you pissed them off, you tilted them, and I know that's okay with you, but hey, that's not conducive to the success of the group either, right?
Well, like I said, the reason why I have that mentality is because of the people I group with. So, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you that might not be the best way to give constructive criticism, but when I do it, or when I say things like that, I try to say it in a happy tone. So instead of like, yo, you're fucking retarded, I'll be like, yo, this strat is kind of retarded, Like, I'll say it in kind of a nice way,
I don't think I've ever heard you say that way, but
This is
okay.
kinda fucking retarded.
like I'll try to say it in a nice way, but I mean, it is what it is kind of thing, It's just like, it's just
Okay. No, fair
like,
enough.
but that's why I have that mentality. So, like, because when I fuck up, my friends say, "Why the fuck did you do that?" And shit like that, right?
Right.
So,
Hey, Zeno, what the hell was that provoke? You idiot.
yeah,
What was that
exactly.
provoke?
Yo, why are you
just
being
threw
an
it-
idiot? Like,
Are you freaking kidding me?
Are you freaking
Yeah.
kidding me, Zeno?
yeah. So, and I think, and not, you know what? While you're right that sometimes it does trigger people, and sometimes that is a hurdle. But
It makes people uncomfortable,
But what it also does is when you say shit like that, you got about like 5 or 6 people that are thinking the exact
You
same
got their
thing.
attention.
Well,
It's
Yeah.
just they didn't want to say it because they
See,
were
there's
afraid of
something-
like hurting someone's feelings or some shit like that. And I mean, I get that and stuff. But like, if I'm there to help, like, because if I'm there to help, I want to spend as little time going through like sifting through that bullshit. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
And
You could be blunt while still being nice, though. I don't know. I guess what I'm
that's
trying to say
it's very hard to do.
No, I think I found the confounding factor here. All right, so I think this strat of constructive criticism works because of Zeno because there's a bit of prestige behind his name, right? I feel like if some no-name random guy that you've never heard of before was
just comes
telling
up,
people
yeah.
that you're fucking retarded, I don't think it would work as
He just
well
comes off
as
as a
if
huge
Zeno
prick.
was saying.
Yeah, if someone did
Right.
that, like we'd be talking about him like later and how it was weird. So
It's
Yeah,
honestly
I'm not-
because you're pretty renowned in the Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
I have actually like I love the fact that like the stream and stuff like I love the fact that the stream like it's been memed, right? It's a fucking meme, dude. It's a villain bully, you know? Because like in this stream like so many people give so much constructive criticism. It's actually amazing how much constructive criticism people get. And sometimes on stream people get upset. They're like, "Oh, well, I'm embarrassed because of my damage." It's just like, well, instead of being embarrassed, why don't you take this criticism and improve? Because that's what I do.
Right.
Like
Okay.
I fuck up all the time on stream. Like holy fuck. Like yesterday we were doing these like SR runs. Yeah, that's right, SR runs.
Oh my
And,
god!
Speedrun runs? Okay.
Yeah, we were doing the speedrun runs in A9, and I fucking dark arts the dark dance during a speedrun run, you know?
Ooh.
Alexander A9?
Yeah, and then there was another poll where I dark arts then uncomboed Soul Eater, you know? And I'm just thinking to myself, like,
Damn,
are
dude,
you
that
fucking
really
serious?
ruined your
Yeah,
speed
yeah,
SR.
dude, it was rough. Dude. It was fucking rough, dude. I was like, oh my god, like, why am I in here? I'm such a worthless fucking piece of shit, you know? And
Right.
like, so that's like now that's how like I give constructive criticism. But then again, though, I mean, it's just one of those things,
Maybe
right?
you're just
where,
immune to it now.
where yeah,
You've
see,
seen it all.
see, like that's another thing is that like I like because I stream a lot and stuff, and because I make videos, like I'm used to a lot of constructive criticism, a lot.
Yeah, you.
And so I've
You
kind
have
of like
a lot of really close friends telling you how bad you're at the game,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So like I've kind of got used to it, and sometimes like that's why I was saying like I don't necessarily disagree with you that having that approach is not always the right way because it's
Yeah,
not
it's a
always the
little
right way
fucking
at all.
retarded, yeah.
But the reason why but at least this is the reason why that I have that mentality at least because I'm not saying it's gonna be right for every group because there's been like. You know what? A fucking good example, yo. You remember that A6 we were helping Bach? That A6 we were helping, and that paladin was like, "Why are you pulling on Blaster?" You remember that shit? He was like, "Why are you pulling?" I was like, "No, no. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we're doing. I'm gonna fucking pull. You're gonna take the next boss, and after I'm basically explaining the whole strat. And the entire time, because he felt, because I hurt his feelings the whole time. He's trying to fucking prove me wrong and shit. Well, how do you know this is gonna happen here? It's just like, dude, I have done this so many fucking times, man. And it's like, dude, I already know what you're gonna do before you even do it. I already know, just because, dude, this is all I fucking do is spend my fucking time in here, man.
Right.
Like,
But
just
I
trust
think you
me.
can get that same point across without being mean.
But the thing is, though,
that's just
is
me.
we progged super crazy fast. That was their very first lockout, and they
Okay,
got to
okay.
Vortexer. Like we saw Vortexer once, and we got to Swindler consistently. And at
Right.
the end, he was whispering me, telling me like he was like, thanks for like. Telling me the turn and stuff, and he added me on his friends list, dude. It was this whole like moment, right? Like we bonded, we went from hating, he went from hating me to, thinking I'm an okay guy. And at the start, like I didn't, like my tone of voice didn't change.
Right,
Like at the
right.
start, I wasn't angry.
You weren't
I-
insulting him or anything. You're just being blunt with your point. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
so-
there's value of being blunt with constructive criticism, but yeah.
I'm a little bit nicer when I criticize
But
people.
see, that's the thing, though. It's like,
Yo, was Blood for Blood up there, anyone, potentially?
yeah, see, I would have been like, well, you fucking died because your dumb ass had blood for blood on. What'd you fucking expect, idiot? You know, like what did you expect? You know?
Mom, like, yo, I think
There's some
what's
middle
had blood for
ground.
blood up. Yep, he had blood for blood up.
Yeah.
You
But
don't
anyway,
use blood there.
I think one barrier to a lot of groups' improvement is how unwilling to give constructive criticism they are.
Yeah,
It's like
that's true.
they know the problem exists. They know who the heavy ones are in the group, but everyone's afraid to say something because they're afraid to hurt that person's feelings. But you know, sometimes
Reminds me of
helping
your
someone-
old group situation.
yeah, like well, sometimes it's like the if you're kind of scared to give constructive criticism, how can you expect them to improve? And all you're doing now is just venting to each other about, oh man, that person's just so awful at this fight.
I think it's important for people to understand that criticism, when done properly, is it's impartial. People don't aren't doing it out of malicious intent. It's just
People
a call.
read too much into it.
It's a call for improvement. Yeah, and that's it. And they just want the improvement. And if the room is there to improve and it's relevant, like a thing to focus on, then yes, it's good. And there shouldn't it's often uncomfortable, but that's just the nature of going into someone's deal and changing things.
Yeah.
It's like there's a lot of groups where the healers just don't do DPS, and like nobody has the heart to be like, yo, healers, I think you should be doing some DPS, right?
Yeah, we just swiped at 1% with 50k damage left.
Yeah.
If you would have done 3 casts earlier in the fight, we might have killed it there.
Right? Yeah. But sometimes they're just scared. They're just like, I don't want to stir up shit. So if somebody else wants to say that, they can, but I'm not going to do it. Well, cool. Now you have 0 DPS healers for the rest of this progression cycle,
Yeah.
and they'll never get better, and you can't blame them, right? But yeah, I think it's important to hold your, well, depending on your static, like every static's different, right? Everyone plays at a different level of intensity, so that's something that kind of has to be agreed upon by the static as a whole. But at the same time, I think it's important that players kind of hold each other accountable to a certain standard of play, right? Whatever they agreed upon. So
Yeah.
some
think
groups don't have standards. That's okay. That's totally fine. If you just want to squeak by and kill the boss, but some groups, they don't hold people to the standards that they should be or they can be,
Yeah.
that they've agreed upon, because they're just scared to cause conflict with constructive criticism. But it doesn't have to be that way, right? All right. So anyway,
Is that all we got on teamwork or criticism? I mean.
Yeah, pretty much it. Yeah. Yeah, like sometimes, like I was typing in chat, man, like, I don't know, just the way that I fucking give criticism and take criticism is just like, because the people I group with, like, I don't mean to sound like vindictive or mean or anything, but sometimes it's just, you just got to get to the point. At least that's not always the best way to approach it. Like, I know that. I'm not saying that it is. It's just me personally. That's just how I do it, and the reason why I do it that way is because of the people that I play with all the time and how I receive it. So I kind of just like take that wherever I go.
Yeah.
But
Well, I think if you're trying to min-max your approach to constructive criticism,
Here we go.
I think
I like that. I like that.
yes, if you're to min-max your constructive criticism giving ability, I think that involves having some control over the way that you give it. To be perfectly honest, I'm a professional musician, and if I were to say "What are you, stupid?" To anyone for anything, then I'm out. I just lost my job. So that's not going to work, obviously. And certain groups have different tolerances to how much shit they talk to each other. Shit talk can be casual, or sometimes you can have a group that raids and no one says a bad word, and everyone's really respectful.
Sure.
I just think it's important to kind of be able to adapt your bluntness, and if you can't use the appropriate level of force for bluntness, I think the best thing to do is to not play with them
Dude,
anymore. Yeah.
that reminds me of when Bach, do you remember when we raided with Benos on that A1 or A5 Savage? And he had that ACT trigger, and it was like a super
Oh my
formal.
god.
It was like a super formal Discord, and then Benos' ACT trigger comes through.
Oh
That-
my god. With
so,
all those
yeah, it
racial
probably- yeah.
slurs that I won't repeat on.
Oh
So
my
your
god.
so your min
That was
max
the most awkward
criticism.
moment ever.
Your min max criticism also has to be adaptable to the situation. I agree, because Zeno's level of criticism wouldn't have fit with that group very well. I think over Mumble, because so it has to change a bit too.
So, but all right, so like, I mean, at least I'm not like whenever Bano says something, dude. Like, come on, I'm not that bad. Like, because there's some hatred behind it. At least with me, it's just blunt, you know.
What
like,
was who was the guy that
Yeah,
said it on?
they don't know that.
As long as it's not like freaking Krytor, is that the guy who freaking had
God,
that?
oh
fucking
my,
Cox,
that
man.
was so funny, dude. God fucking Cox, man. Oh, that was so funny, man. Holy shit. Oh, dude.
So as long as you don't get to that level of criticism, we're good. All right.
Alright.
As long as
Okay.
we're not blowing up on it.
So what, moving on here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
moving
What's the
on.
word?
So, okay, yeah. Hold on one second. Let me copy
What is
paste
the
this
word?
real quick.
Alright. So explain what's the word is.
Explain what?
What's the word? What is it?
Okay, so what's the word? So basically, we're gonna ask a question. There's gonna be a blank, and we're gonna. Well, sometimes it's two words. I guess. Hold on. Maybe it should be.
You can do whatever you want with it. It could be what's the
What-
word?
Maybe
What's
it's what's the
proper
word
or
and then
word?
S in parentheses. That's how you do that, right? I'm no English
Sure.
major, but I mean that's how you do that, right? Okay, all right. So anyway, so what's the word? Okay, so blank is a barrier to many players' improvement. What would you say about that, Jeff?
Yeah. Okay, so when I'd say setup is a barrier to many players' improvement. And this comes into play in a couple of ways. When I first started playing MMO, this was a long time ago. I was like 9 years old and stupid, and I was playing Lord of the Rings Online, and I just took the keybinds that I was given to play the game and like tried and made it work. I had like my left hand was over WASD, and my other hand was like on top of my like it was on top, like I was just poking at the number keys at the keyboard, just overlapping my hands, and I was like, wow, this is like really fun. I could make explosions happen. Because I didn't know like that. I didn't know I could set it up, so I didn't have to do that, and I didn't know exactly like the level of improvement I could have seen by changing how things were organized. It just didn't come to me at the time. I was also very young, but I feel that a lot of people are in a similar situation with how they have things set up, where they haven't really considered or played around with these variables that they can set up themselves. You have control over where your keybinds are, and you have control over where your UI elements are placed. And,
So the
and
control scheme sucks.
yeah,
It holds them
possibly.
back.
Yeah, the control scheme can hold you back. You want your control scheme to, you want it to be comfortable, so you could continue to have the use of your hands for as long as they want to work for you. You want it to give you degrees of freedom, like so you can have expressive variables and make decisions. Like if you're using one ability and the way you're pressing that ability puts you like a second away from being able to activate another ability or to move your camera or something that you might have to do, then you should probably consider like introducing more ergonomic setup with more degrees of freedom. I currently I play around with my keybinds a whole lot. Like I do weird stuff. Sometimes I use like half controller, half Naga mouse. Sometimes I use keyboard and mouse. Sometimes just keyboard if I'm like eating something with my other hand. But yeah, there's a lot of options, and I just suggest people to explore it. Yeah, outside of keybinds, there is UI considerations, and this is kind of a point of contention between people how exactly important it is that your UI is set up in a way that is conducive to, the rate of where it is. But at least for me, it helps me a whole lot to move things around the screen from where they're placed by default. I kind of have a larger screen, and having my buffs appear at the very top and my target bar at the very top and my hotbars at the very bottom makes it like almost impossible for me to quickly glance at things and to react and respond to the changes in my buffs, my debuffs, and changes in my hotbars. It's very hard to respond to them with a large screen I'm sitting relatively close to, and yeah, so what I did to resolve that situation is I brought my target bar down, like, below my character, and I have my resources there as well, and then right above my target bar I have the buffs. I have the debuffs appear like next to my character, so that when I'm playing and a debuff pops up, I don't even have to be looking for it. It just it falls there, and
Just,
I can't
it's intuitive,
ignore it.
right?
Yeah, and currently, like, at my character's feet is where the cast bar will appear if the boss casts ability, and it's very hard to not see it. Like, I know it's entirely possible to be looking out for these things and to play perfectly well. Like, you can play perfectly, you can be an awesome player and use the default setup, but I think, at least for me and my equipment and how close I'm sitting to the monitor and whatever, and
It can only
how
help.
much,
It can't hurt.
yeah, it can help. So yeah, arranging your UI serves to, like, make a couple happy little accidents happen. Like, you're removing
Happy
pitfalls.
accidents?
Yeah. Happy little accidents
make
that happen
mistakes here.
when you. No, I mean, like mistakes, or you could be making a mistake, but it'll still be okay because you removed the pitfalls from the equation. Like, you weren't paying attention to a cast that was happening, even though you should have been. Well, like, you're gonna see it just incidentally, and you're like gonna be like, oh shit, but like you got it, where otherwise you would have just been none the wiser.
What are you talking about? My ACD tells me when anything gets casted. Come on.
Yeah, you can do that as well.
When you talk about bad UI setups and stuff like that, and control setups,
Mine is terrible.
Mine
would
the first
tilt
thing
me.
the first thing that comes to mind for me is keyboard keyboard turners and clickers. Like,
Or
a lot of
people
the
that
time
use two hands on the keyboard.
yeah, and a lot of the time, the people who say, "Oh, it's fine. I'm an expert at doing this. I've been doing this since forever. It's perfectly fine." And those are the same people who get shit on by dive bombs repeatedly in
Yeah.
turn 13. So it's like, yeah, I'm just not good at dive bombs. Like, yeah, exactly, exactly my point.
Well,
Better hope it's in that one position that your fucking camera's facing.
yeah, exactly.
You'll be amazed at what some people can work with, and there's some great clicker players, there's great keyboard turners,
I mean,
whatever.
the best player
Sure.
I know, one of the best CP I know is a clicker. So, freaking
Yeah.
Aura.
Shoutouts to Aura.
Shout out
Shout
to
outs
Aura.
to,
Click
He's
of
also a
FL.
freaking. What's that clicking game that you play?
Osu.
Osu. Yeah, he's fucking pro at that. So he's probably more accurate with his clicking than I am with my keyboard. So he's like a special exception.
Well, what
By
about
the way, happy accidents is I've never heard it used that way. Usually, when people say happy, last time I heard the word happy accident used, it was to describe something else. I
Yeah.
learned it in sex ed.
Oh,
Oh,
no, I mean,
my.
that was more of a Bob Ross thing than it was a sex ed thing. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's one happy little accident. Oh my god. So
Okay, so
anyway,
anyway.
so Bach, what do you think about blank as a barrier to many players' improvement?
Blank is okay. I'm gonna go with indifference, and that's when people don't really care about becoming a better player, and that could happen by I guess for a variety of reasons, but for the most part, it's just it could just be sheer laziness or just apathy. They just don't care. So some people think, oh, I'm good enough anyway. I don't care, and I find that this is probably it's a huge barrier. It's the biggest barrier because I think players will get better at this game if they want to, and it really depends on how much work they're going to put towards it. And sometimes you're going to have to do things that you don't want to do, like practice, right? Talking about practice, man.
We're talking about practice.
Yeah, so, and, doing research and, looking at FF logs and doing those little things that, sometimes you're just not really in the mood for, then, so be it. But you only get what you give, right? So I find that more people, you could ask anyone, oh, what's your best in slot? And they can name it off, by memory. It's just like, oh yeah, I know exactly what my best in slot gear is, but then they don't know their own fucking rotation, or they don't know how a certain boss fight goes. They know what all the loot that drops from that boss, but they don't know how the boss fight works, and I think that's extremely polarizing. It's like, you need gear to do better DPS, but come on, everyone knows that your technical play has more of an impact on your DPS than, than your fucking secondary stats, right?
Yeah, a lot of people
Going from,
crush
like-
on that too. Is, oh, well, you only out DPS me because my gear. It's like, oh, well, no,
Right.
I actually out DPS you because, of this, and this. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, but for the most part, the reason why people suck, and the reason why people haven't reached a certain skill level is just because they didn't want to. And yeah, some people have truly reached their ceiling and they've done as much as they can, but I don't know. I think for the most part, it's just they're just indifferent. They just couldn't be fucked to get better at this game, so they don't.
What about you, Chet? What do you think? What's your word?
So I had a couple of different ones, but I settled on like self-doubt, and people don't think that they can play that well. You know what I mean? This is kind of like my personal experience before I kind of realized that, hey, these guys aren't that much better than me. But in SWOTOR, that was the game I played before this, and that's when I met all the yes guys that brought me to this game. But I remember at the time in SWOTOR, like all these guys on our server are so much better at the game. I will never be able to play this with these on this level. These guys are just so much better than me. And then I, through circumstance, I'll speed up the story a little bit. I got into probably the second best group on the server, and I'm like, man, these guys really aren't that good. It's just I just felt at the time that I was just incapable of playing the game at that level. But I just think that some people are inhibited by the fact that they think they can't play as good as the guys they see on streams or in clear videos.
It's kind of
just
like
think
they've already lost before they
yeah,
began, kind of.
Yeah, they don't even want to start the race. They're just too hesitant to start.
Some people, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, someone mentioned on stream, it's just like, bear in mind that what these guys are talking about is just like a more hardcore mentality.
Yeah.
And that kind of proves your point. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, this doesn't apply
Yeah.
to us.
Yeah, this doesn't
casuals.
apply to
It's
me.
like,
They're
well,
only talking about hardcore players, and I'm not that. I'm not like
why
that.
why can't a casual player take steps to getting better?
Well,
right?
a simple change. Yeah, I kind of touched on that too on chat. Is a simple change of who pulls, or a simple change is a tank swap. That's not hardcore. That's just that.
It's just logic.
Yeah, that's just
Strategy.
figuring out what cooldowns are available. That's reading tooltips and talking to the other tank. That's not
Yeah.
hardcore at all.
Yeah, I that realization actually helped me a lot become a better player. I'm like, oh, even though the black bitch in our group wanted to kick me from the group originally because I kind of know shit at the game, back in SWOTOR, Ed, Lackey Fish, wanted to kick me from the group because I was bad. It helped me.
You had to have been really bad because Ed is like super patient, man. Holy cow.
Yeah, yeah, that helped me so much. Finding that confidence in the group to even let me play with them, I just got. I don't know. I
guys are
got
no
so much better
smarter
as a
than me,
player,
right?
Yeah. Like they're not doing anything crazy different. They're just hitting their buttons in order. But yeah, that's my point. Is that people sometimes don't even give it a shot. They just write it off before they start.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to go last because I have like two short stories. Just two short stories. I promise.
Oh my god! All right,
I
I'll
promise I'm gonna
AFK
quit.
30 minutes.
But mine. Okay. So my word is arrogance. Oh, I fucking can't stand arrogance. Like, oh my god. Okay. All right. So story one. Right. All right. Arrogance, man. Now, this story is a pretty good story. So I'm in this Titan Extreme, and basically arrogance, the way I'm talking, I'm already an excellent player, I'm already badass, I don't need to improve anything. I don't need to practice, that kind of mentality, right? So I'm in this Titan Extreme, and I'm pulling, and the other tank is a warrior, and he's in Defiance, and he's not tanking, and I find it very odd, and I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? Like, what is he doing right now? And so I dropped Defiance, after my butcher's block, or yeah, IB at the time, yeah. And he rips off of me, and I'm like, why are you in Defiance? And you know what he tells me? He says, "Unchained, bitch!" And I'm blown away. I'm like, what? What? What the fuck does that even mean? And he's like, Unchained. It was in all capitals, 3 exclamation marks. It didn't even matter that I was right. I got put in my place and I was wrong. The amount of arrogance that was in that moment of time was so absurd that it didn't, I had nothing. I had nothing. I had nothing. So later,
He didn't
actually,
think he was doing anything wrong, right?
yeah, he didn't think he was doing anything wrong. And years later, after, was a couple episodes ago actually, from Unchained, he actually messaged me about it. He was
When you
yo,
retold the story, right?
yeah, he was like, yo, I heard you on Unchained, and that was me, dude. And he was super apologetic and stuff, and he was like, I was testing something, and I felt bad because I was like, dude, I wasn't mad at that. It was an awesome story. It was awesome. I was just blown away by your reaction. I was just fucking blown away by it, right? And he's actually a pretty cool dude. But anyway, so yeah, just fucking dude, just Unchained, bitch. That's what happened. That's what happened. He pulled off of me, and I was just completely perplexed. But on a more I guess serious, on a more serious note, is that I was in a group, and I was on my Dark Knight, and the warrior in that group, he had a little bit of an ego, and now granted he was a skilled player, but he was he was using Butcher's block as off tank, and I was tanking on Dark Knight, and when he pulled off of me, he proceeded to call me a trash player. And we were discussing this through Whisper, after the instance or whatever, because he pulled off of me right before cleave, and it cleaved everyone and killed the party, and he tried to blame me. I'm like, no, that's not how this works, man. That's not how this works. And originally he was 100% against me. He thought that I was a fucking idiot, and eventually he came around. He realized that you don't do that as off tank. It is a raid DPS loss. So if you're a warrior and you're using Butcher's block as an off tank while the Dark Knight is tanking, you're fucking up, and you should not play warrior. There are rare times when you can do it, yes, but more than not, you should just spam I. And that's unfortunately a lot of warriors. Butcher's block is off tank. But if you ever group with me, you will know immediately that if you do that, I will notice, and I will humiliate you, and you will change the way you do it.
Oh my god!
You will change the way you do it. Trust me, you will change.
That's some destructive criticism.
I mean, boom, problem solved. It's just boom, problem solved. But anyway, arrogance, and I'm guilty of it too. I am guilty of this too. And because sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm not doing this wrong, and then I'll think, you know what? I was doing that wrong. Yeah, I was doing that wrong. Yo, you right.
But only until you're able to swallow your pride did you realize that you're doing it wrong, right?
Well, usually it's right when I'm proven wrong. Right when I acknowledge, I'm kind of an idiot, so it might take me an extra couple minutes to realize that I'm wrong. But right when I realize that I'm wrong, it's not really a pride issue so much for me. it's because I don't mind being wrong. Like it's fine. Like I mean, fuck, I'm wrong like a lot of the time, but when I'm like severely wrong in a situation like that, sometimes it takes me like it takes my brain a couple minutes, a couple extra minutes to process it because I'm looking at it from like every angle. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not really like a pride issue, but yeah, arrogance is like I guess a pet peeve. It's one of the things that I really don't like, and I try really hard not to be arrogant. I try really hard, but I mean, you know, fucking, I mean, everybody fucks up from time to time, but anyway, so that's my word. So that's my word is arrogance. And
So
that was
if
my
you
statement.
if you think you're a lot better than you actually are, you're not going to improve.
Yes, exactly,
Basically.
exactly. Like once you are at the mindset that I am the best at this job, then you fucked up because you're never gonna like you're never like or at least this is the way I think you're never gonna be the best because the fights they evolve, the job it evolves, like shit like that. Like it's
Hmm.
always gonna be changing. So you will miss things from time to time. Like there's things I miss. There's a lot of things I miss. You know,
Like
and
the best players are self-aware, right?
yes,
Of their
yes.
flaws and stuff. Yeah.
At least that's what I think anyway. But
Okay.
anyway, so that was my word. So okay,
Cool.
so the next let's see. Okay, a quality that many of the game's best players have in common is what do you think, Chet?
Oh, me. Uh, I just think that I really value communication and like being able to talk like to each other and uh, I've seen some groups where their tanks never talk and it just leads to problems. You know, like having a mic. I think as the only class healers need mics, tanks need mics. In-game communication, I think, is huge. Like, uh, good DPS can get away with it, but I feel like one good players are able to communicate in the middle of the fight and adapt to situations and make callouts because of bad situations. I don't know. What my style of play is I'm kind of like the quarterback of the raid team. I feel like I make
Yeah. Okay. Good one.
callouts.
Just kidding.
What?
If you say so. All right. No, continue.
Uh, and I don't. Maybe Bach disagrees with me, but
No,
I
no, no.
like
I'm just
I
like
make
busting
call
your
outs
balls
for
here, dude.
situations. I'll notice missing things like
No, you
pro
communicate
tech.
really well. That's one of the first things I notice when playing with you is you communicate really well. I think
Eh,
that's super important for tanks, particularly.
yeah, I'll notice like cleric stance on healers or like missing raid stances and stuff like that. Just like I feel like just being able to communicate in the middle of the fight is huge, and a lot of I don't know. That I think it's huge.
How do you improve your communication?
How to improve your communication? I
Yeah.
don't know.
Okay, you go.
Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, so I have a I had a point where I was like, man, I need to improve my communication ability while playing my job. So what I did was I went to the training dummy. Yeah, yes, I do go to the training dummy. I don't think anyone should stop, but um, for certain reasons. And I put the game on one side of my screen, and I put an article on raid awareness on the other side of my screen.
As a
And
reference, wow.
and no. And I wanted to read the article on raid awareness, but I didn't unless I was doing my rotation on the dummy. So I read out loud this article on raid awareness. It was like 50 pages long,
Oh
like
my
while
god.
practicing my rotation on a dummy. Um, in like this attempt to learn this very like seemingly hard to practice skill of communicating while you DPS. And I wouldn't suggest that anyone actually does that, but I don't know. It goes to show like uh, how you can have control over some of these things, and that seem kind of nebulous talents that maybe you have or you don't. That's a bad way of looking at it. I mean, there's always a way to improve.
It can be learned,
Um,
right? Yeah.
yeah, it can be learned.
I don't know
I,
how you do it. I don't know how you raid lead as a DPS because, like, when I DPS, I can't even like chew gum and DPS at the same time. I'm just not coordinated
Hey
enough.
man,
Yeah,
DPS
dude.
is hard, man.
Dude, it is so hard, man. I can't do that, dude.
Put me on tank where it's easy, man.
Yeah.
I don't have
Yeah,
positionals to worry about. I
same.
could stand in shit.
Oh yeah, that's
I don't have
tank
to
really
do
hard,
anything,
dude.
man.
I mean, you could also, put yourself in the position as a group leader and also be a DPS. That will also that will greatly increase your ability to
Yeah,
communicate and
that
play.
would definitely help a lot.
Or like groups can, alternate. Like, hey, like you're calling mechanics now. Then that person tries to, and maybe successfully does it, maybe not. But like at least like have just assign people like even arbitrarily to be the caller of things. Could be a good way to practice that if you were so inclined.
You ever play that board game Taboo, where you get a word and you have to try to get your team to say that word without saying
Yeah.
any of the other words that are on that card?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good communication drill.
Communication
We used to do
builder.
that at work. It was like, yeah, we had a communication meeting, and then we all get to the meeting. We just play Taboo for like 2 hours while eating chips.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, hell yeah. I don't know, just throwing that out there.
I think okay, so my word, a quality that many of the game's best players have in common I think is replication. Uh, I think okay, so by replicating what other really good players do makes you a better player too. Like obviously you're not going to replicate everything. Like a good example is so like the 3-person time gate, right? Like the first guys to do that were like that was crazy, like that was crazy cool, like that they did that shit, right? And then as soon as they figured out that it was like a massive DPS increase, like everybody started to do it, right? So I think that just like that example, or like you can like I kind of touched on this earlier when we were talking about flogs, but the same thing, like when you creep on people, you want to see why they did the certain things that they do when they do them. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
if you can take pieces of that and incorporate it to what you do, you might actually be able to improve on that further. It's kind of like I don't know. It's kind of like a mountain, and we're all trying to climb the mountain, right? And we're all trying to like help each other, or at least that's how I see it. We're all trying to help each other get to the top. So like another like what another guy's doing may be better than like what you're doing, right? Like that he is like climbing faster, so and you're like, oh, okay, I got you. Okay, so you use this here, this here. So then now you like you get a little better, and then you take that knowledge, and then okay, well because I changed this up, I'm gonna change this up here. So now like you've taken what they have done, but you have improved it yet again. You know what I mean? So it's just like I think that the best players will replicate what other really skilled players do, or at least I do. Like I
think
creep a lot. So
I think another part of replication is being predictable. Like like every single time the tank is going to be using this here, so I know exactly how much damage he's going to take. You know, everything is
it's really good.
predictable.
Super important for healing too,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
if your co-healer does something different every time because he's not consistent, then
Who would do that?
I don't know, certain co-healers. Just kidding.
Sorry.
But yeah, if you're consistent, then your co-healer won't. You're not keeping them guessing as to what you're going to do, so they could be consistent too.
What do you haven't said your word yet. What's your
Me?
word block? Yeah.
Oh, okay. A quality that many of the game's best players have in common is recklessness. I know it's a weird word. I've always said this, but I know it's a weird word to choose because usually you relate recklessness with poor play or greed or being bad. But I find that a lot of the best players in this game are reckless, and the reason they're reckless is because it's a part of min-maxing is kind of knowing where your limits are, and you never know where your limits are until you cross them, right? Until you try something and you try something, and if it works, you're just like, hell yeah, this works. And if it doesn't work, then you know never to do it again. But to quote Albert Einstein, one of his quotes
Oh
was, Hold on, let me look it up. I don't want to fuck up an Albert Einstein quote on stream here. A person who never made a mistake never tried anything new. So it goes back to that clip that we showed where Jeth was doing the bok choy. I mean
Yeah.
the Jethred shuffle.
Yeah.
So basically that came from how do I get as many GCDs as possible while still performing this mechanic safely, right? And I think if if he didn't have any recklessness in him, he'd just be, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna do it the safe way, lose grease lightning. It's not a big deal as long as I'm safe. But it takes that reckless mind to innovate and find little things like that you could do and kind of thread that needle, right? And that's what min-maxing is all about, is taking small things and turning them into small advantages, right? And going the extra mile. So yeah, I'd say recklessness is a big thing. But just to kind of add on to that, you also have to know how to turn off your reckless switch, right? Is like, if you're close to that kill, and the kill could come any attempt now, and it's freaking Monday, so you have a limited amount of pulls. Maybe now's not the best time to be trying new shit, right?
Yeah.
And in addition to that, if there's something that works like 10% of the time, and the other 9 times out of 10 you're just killing yourself, then maybe it's time to not be reckless there anymore. But yeah, that's my word.
Yeah.
Okay.
I still have a word to go.
Yeah. Yep.
Go.
Yeah, recklessness is kind of part of a exploration that has to do with my word. But a quality that many of the game's best players have in common is curiosity. Like, in the leave no stone unturned sort of way. If there's a question anywhere, you figure it out. You figure out the answer, and sometimes the answer is hard to find and takes a lot of digging around into parsers and making spreadsheets and whatever. But like, I have to know if something happens in a fight that like, I'm not sure if I made the right choice, or I wasn't sure what to do. Like, it bothers me, and I carry that with me, like, until I figure it out. Like, school, work, play, like, whatever. I'm not happy with my knowledge of my job until I figure it out. So it's just kind of an extra process. You're good at the game. You have the skills and the knowledge to be good at the game, but also this active process that's just layered on top of that, where you're just like constantly, trying to seek the right path and to try new things, to have ideas and see them through, like maybe alternative team comps or alternative ways of dodging mechanics, or orchestrating large party mechanics so that people get extra uptime. Just like the process that never stops, that is on top of having the ability to play the game to the point where those considerations are effective. So yeah, curiosity.
Yeah, I'm like I definitely enjoy like exploring that kind of shit, like different team comps and stuff, man. Uh, okay, so all right, one sec. Let me copy paste this. We got 2 more. Okay, so this what's the word? Is blank is the fight that leveled me up the most as a player. What would you say, Jeff, that leveled you up the most?
I'd say positions. Yeah, turn 8 Savage. This is the second coil. Turn 8 Savage. I progressed this fight with one of my groups back in I-110 days. Before they
I was in that group with you.
before they nerfed the fights. I think they nerfed. No, I don't remember if they did at all.
I don't think they didn't nerf the fight, but eventually people got access to like 130 gear, but yeah, this is
Yeah.
back in like 110, right?
Yeah, I'm saying like the content was like relevant across I-110, 130, but that's besides the point. A8 Savage improved my a T8 Savage improved my ability as a player probably the most out of any fight. And the improvement was less like a mechanical like ability to play my job and to you know do all the right things as a DPS as much as it was kind of an intangible progression that I went through. I understood a lot about how parties work together and how strategies are formed and what makes an effective strategy. There's a mechanic in that fight called ballistic missile, which involves kind of really quick coordination between every party member in the group.
It's similar to enumeration in Midas. If you haven't, for those who haven't done Savage Second Coil, it's like enumeration where you have to have a certain amount of people in the circle.
And yeah, so in coming up with a strategy, I looked at videos and I talked a lot about it with other people in the group. I wasn't the group leader, but I eventually really helped contribute to the strategy and saw it to its final form. But it was a journey getting there. It was a journey getting to the proper strategy. It took there was a failure that we had. We first approached it like do whatever you want, like
YOLO.
if it looks like other people can do it and you're a caster, like just don't move, and do it that way, which is an approach that works sometimes. Some groups are better at just doing stuff impromptu. Some groups have everyone having a high understanding of how latency looks like, and appropriate times to communicate with other people and the way to communicate quickly and effectively. Some groups are very strong in those skills, and a YOLO strat can lead to successful execution of mechanics probably quicker than planning every single situation out and having a massive priority list.
Yeah.
However, I feel that the latter, like having everything planned out, was the appropriate approach for my group. And I learned, it turns out that it's not so much like the strategy and how good it is or your plan for it. Like that's not as important as getting people in the habit of resolving the mechanic. And if you're YOLOing it or if you're following a giant priority system, eventually people are just going to be habituated to everything that they need to do for the mechanic. And then it won't be, the strategy won't be like some foreign thing to them. It's just natural, and they know like, oh, the black mage got targeted for that thing, I do this now, without even having to think about the strategy.
It used to be so important to be consistent at ballistic missiles in that fight, because that was the one mechanic that was recurring throughout the entire fight from start to finish. There was a ballistic missile here and there, and each time you did it the same way, but it was just kind of combined with in the middle of like some other mechanics that happened. But that mechanic happened from start to finish. So if you didn't have a good plan for it, and if it wasn't consistent, then progging that fight was just complete bullshit.
Yeah, and yeah, so. And you want your strategy to also like lend itself to being able to criticize things if I can, it's harder to criticize like, oh, you didn't YOLO the mechanic correctly than, oh, you didn't stand in this spot which you were supposed to according to our plan. Like, so that was also a variable or an aspect of strategizing that I learned about in that fight. And yeah, I definitely improved like the most, in my awareness, both of, fight things. Like I made some calls I never made calls before, and my awareness of like what strategizing, like how to do it most effectively. I learned a lot on turn 8 Savage. I know I've alternated between saying A8 and turn 8 Savage, and I mean turn 8 Savage. So
What
yeah,
what
that's my
about you,
word.
Bach? What was your what was the fight that leveled you up the most?
Me, there were a lot of fights that kind of leveled up different aspects of my game, but I'd say the one most recently that had an impact on my development as a player was Sephiroth EX. Um, and it wasn't so much the fight itself; it's just the fact that the fight was the most accessible yet difficult. Like I don't know if you call it difficult, but like it was accessible, and I was kind of like prior to healing, I was a warrior main, and I've been playing warrior for like since the beginning. So I kind of had to abruptly switch to a healer main in the middle of Midas Prog, and I've never been a healer main before, and the extent of my experience was just healing primals. So when the idea came up of long story short, we had to kick our white mage. We're not progging another turn with him, so we're just like, he's gone. And our plan was to pick up another warrior and have me switch to healer. So I had to learn how to heal fairly quickly. And on top of that, I decided that I wanted to go Astro, which I didn't have any experience on. All of my experience was on white mage and scholar. So basically, I guess the approach I took was to do as many Sephiroths as I can, in whenever I had a free time, a free moment, I would just hop into Sephiroth and just heal, right, and get better at DPSing, find out where I can DPS and stuff like that, and kind of play the class the way I wanted to play. In addition to that, getting better at Astro, one of the biggest challenges for me was card management. And actually, it was Chet who helped me a lot with that. I don't know if he knows how much he helped me, but we used to play this game called Protect the President. And basically, me and him would go in as Astros, and we would pick one person and just fluff the shit out of his parse by feeding them cards. And this isn't how you want to play Astro, but just playing this game kind of made me more aware of the cards that I draw, in addition to healing and DPSing. So the more I played this game, in Sephiroth, as well as other content that we did, like Void Arc. I don't know. It just made me more aware with cards. But pretty much the reason I chose Sephiroth is because it was the most available practice, and I think people should be kind of taking the same approach with Sophia and using that for practice.
I think there were. See, I'm kind of the same boat as you. There were like multiple times where I had like some major like level ups, if you will. Like one of them was obviously Titan Extreme. That's probably like arguably the best fight that's ever been designed. But that one didn't level me up the most. The one that leveled me up the most was A3 Savage. A3 Savage was it took you. Okay, so A3 Savage, it's a joke now. They nerfed it, you overgear it, it's whatever. But at the time, A3 Savage was one of the most difficult fights, if not that they ever came out with.
That fight was the truth.
You were a man
Put hair
when
on
you
your
killed
chest,
A3 Savage. Like even if you were a female,
Or if you're a girl.
when you killed
okay.
when you killed A3, you were a man. Like you were a man when you killed a fucking 3 Savage. Like that fight took you out of your comfort zone because if you were a tank, it forced you to tank without your tanking stance and do damage. If you were a healer, it forced you to do damage. Like it forced you to do stuff that you weren't, like, you may or may not be used to doing. And like sure, in full I don't even fucking know what it was, 210 gear, it was a lot easier. But when you went in there at like fucking, what was it, like 190, what, like 6 or
Yeah.
like 196, I think it was. Like enrage was a common death in that fight. Like it
Sweet,
was.
we died to enrage at 10%. Let's find 10% more damage.
Exactly. Like A3 fucking pushed you, and it pushed you really, really fucking hard. And that, like A3, I think, like I said, there were quite a few times where I learned different things throughout the fight. Like on Titan, obviously, you learn so much shit. Like Titan Extreme teaches. Like I think of all the fights in the game, Titan Extreme is one of the fights that teaches you the most. Like it may not be as difficult, but as far as like the different responsibilities when it comes to like being a tank, at least, I think it has the most. It had, but A3 also has pretty
That was
much
more of a
every
teamwork
yeah
thing.
pretty
Sure.
much everything that Titan has, but it's like way, way, way fucking harder.
It taught you the value of your own damage, and you know what? I think that's kind of lost now because like tank damage, you needed the hell out of that for A3, but now that it's no longer a necessity to clear content, do you think players will just get worse?
I mean,
I feel like
still
the
fight
players
like
that are
A3,
good
and
are
there
going
never
to
will
stay
be.
good.
yeah. Well,
I don't think there's going to be
they're-
a net aggregate loss of good players.
Well, they're gonna, like, they did, like, they're pretty set on having 3 raid tiers starting at 4.0, which I was really excited to hear that. But
Set or considering? I think there's a difference between the two. Set on and considering.
I
is a
mean,
big
well,
difference.
you know, like, you know, all right, so at least at FanFest they were pretty set on it, but you never know with them. Like, you never know. It might happen, it might not happen, you know.
Anyway.
I'm staying hopeful. I'll just say that. I'm staying hopeful. But anyway, my point is that I think the difference between 3 raid tiers and A3 Savage was that A3 Savage you had to do. The 3rd raid tier, I highly doubt they're going to be putting higher level gear in there. It's probably just going to be glamour, which is fine, but you never have to do it. But A3, you had to do A3. Like
To get the gear.
Yeah, exactly. You had to. You fucking had to. Oh, you want some gear? Oh, you want these BIS tank pants, dog? Yeah, you have to do this fucking fight. Or else you're stuck with that shitty ass
You also have
Shire
to
or
roll
whatever
on
the fuck it is. Yeah.
You also have to roll on the piece of gear and not leave before it drops to the floor.
I mean,
We're not talking about the loot box here.
I mean, who would do that? I don't know anybody that's that fucking stupid, man. But, yeah, so I think A3. You know, when I dropped those pants, I wasn't even upset. I was so fucking happy we killed it. Oh, my
I
God.
was mad for the next, like, 3 weeks.
I was so fucking happy that we killed it, man. Holy
Because you
shit.
passed on them meant I could have agreed and took them.
Oh.
So I was upset.
Alright, Chet, what's your word?
My word?
What fight leveled you up the
Um,
most as a player?
Turn 13, I think, really did. Because when we were doing it, we didn't have...
It
We
down.
didn't have a it down. So, me using stone skin was a necessary part of the strategy. So I had to work in like figuring out when I could get the cast off and between auto attacks and like. And it's not only that though. Is when we started selling the fight, we didn't have a white mage. So I had to learn how to play white mage in the hardest content that was available at the time with 1 less DPS. So like I needed to maximize my mana efficiency, right? So it leveled me up as a paladin, being the only paladin to ever use stone skin beneficially, and as a white mage and learning how to, you know, be mana efficient and all that good jazz at the time. So yeah, definitely turn 12 for me, or turn 13. Did I say 12?
13.
No, you said
Yeah,
turn
okay.
13.
Yeah,
Okay.
turn 13. Because that was when I first started realizing, like, planning out my CDs and planning ahead and all that stuff. Like, it had to be turn 13 for me.
Yeah, you kind of had to learn White Mage for that because you're replaced by a better Paladin.
Ooh. Ooh.
Fucking savage. All right, so here's the next. Here's the next and last. What's the word? My worst flaw as a player is blank. And all right, so I kind of have 2 words. I kind of teetered back and forth between a couple responses here,
The
but
fuck, man? You can't have two answers.
well, I mean, well, all right. Mine is unrealistic expectations.
I'm just kidding. It's your show.
sometime-
You're supposed to say I'm the
Yeah,
leader.
this
I'm
is
the
my
main thing.
show. I'm the leader. I can have 2 words.
All right, fine. Go.
It's unrealistic expectations, and sometimes I forget when I help people or something. Like sometimes it kind of goes back to the criticism thing too, like constructive criticism. Like sometimes I forget to be a little more, I guess, subtle, or sometimes like I forget that like I guess I'll use the meme on the stream. Not everyone can be as good as you are, Zeno. Sometimes, like, I just forget that because, like, I'm really good at consistency, or I'm pretty good at consistency, and sometimes, like, others struggle with consistency. Like, and I think that, like, because I group so much with like you guys and like other like other like really skilled players, sometimes like I forget that people are gonna miss like a cooldown, or they're gonna miss like a heal, or they're gonna miss they're gonna miss something sometimes, and sometimes I have to like take a step back and I have to be like, okay, like fucking calm down here. And that's not to say that I don't like mess up, because I mess up quite a bit, but I'm pretty good at consistency, and sometimes I forget that being inconsistent is like it's actually more common than not common. So sometimes I go in with unreal expectations, even with other groups too, like other like really good groups and stuff, and I try to like I try not to, but sometimes it does happen. But anyway, yeah. But that's my. I think that's probably my worst flaw, among many. Among many, that's probably my worst. But what do you? What was your worst flaw, Bach?
My worst flaw is tilt. I I don't know. Sometimes, like, especially if I make a mistake or something, I get pissed off at myself. Uh, and when I'm tilted, I tend to play worse. And plus, when I'm tilted, when I'm frustrated at something,
get snarky as hell.
I kind of wear my heart on my sleeve, right? So when I'm frustrated at something, I kind of let everybody know. Everyone has to know when Bach is pissed off. So I don't know. I let it affect my play, and I let it affect my attitude. So that's kind of a life struggle, and I think a lot of people are kind of guilty at that. Tilt and frustrated, and sometimes we all get real shitty when we're mad at something. But yeah.
I play fucking horrible when I'm tilted. I'm tilted off the face of the earth, man. I play like shit. All I can think about is just rage and anger. But what would you say, Jeff? What would you say?
Oh, I also have 2 words. My worst flaw as a player is analysis paralysis, and there's like an apostrophe between those 2 words, so that's actually 1 word. Analysis paralysis. I mean, this can come out in a number of ways. The most common one being tunnel vision. Like you're so down in the details of your rotation as you're doing it that you didn't really do what was important at the time, which was be looking around at other things and watching out for cast, doing mechanics properly, not having buffer butt up during damage, etc. And yeah, so analysis paralysis can come into play with tunnel vision, but also and most significantly is I've had this kind of stubbornness to play anything other than monk. I'll say it now. I played monk a lot, and 2.x it was a whole lot of fun, and people wanted monks because monks were very strong, and they're very
monks.
strong.
Like necessary because of the hint down.
Yeah, they were necessary and they were strong, and they didn't have TP problems then like they do now, and whatever, what have you. And I practiced Monk a lot. I spent over 1,000 hours practicing this job, like trying to find the ins and outs of the rotation, finding alternative uses of like fracture and awkward like early demolished clips after 2 stance rotations, with 2 spacer abilities thrown in between, like when to use impulse drive, like all those things were a whole lot of fun to me, and I worked really hard on them. And as a result of how far I came, I became accustomed to like knowing everything about the job. And if I were to go to play another job where I don't know anything, I was just like so uncomfortable, like kind of just afraid of being bad again, and being in a situation where I'm trying to analyze everything and just like have a hard time accomplishing anything like what I need to, or like maintaining the same status I have on DPS and other jobs. Like, yeah, I just thought like so many things. I just kind of got so caught up in overanalyzing things when I was playing a new job that I didn't pursue them to their full extent. And then 3.0 came out, and Monk, everything went to shit. Like, Monk was awful, and
Jeff had to make his own group so he could play Monk.
No. I was kind of devastated, honestly, and all that work I put into the game seemingly went to waste, and I didn't take the game seriously for a while. Like, I did pick up stuff, but I was hardly ever best in slot. Like I don't think I've been best in slot for any of 3.x so far. But now I'm taking the game seriously, and that kind of, I had to make it a compromise to be okay, maybe not knowing stuff, and playing Dragoon and Ninja, and that's where I am now.
So you had to get past your own mental blocks a bit.
Yeah. And then another form of like analysis paralysis is like it comes into play with strategy. Like if you have a strategy but you keep on like changing it or making like small alterations to it because you think it's better, you might be interfering with the process of habituation that will lead to the group success. Like by making so many changes, people can't get used to any one thing when what they really wanted was just a consistent thing to succeed at or fail at, and just practice it, because it doesn't have to be perfect for it to work. And you see this a lot in high-end progression. Like, the strategy is whatever works first, whatever is replicable, they just stick with it, even if it's like stupid, like 1 point limit cut strategy in A11.
Yeah.
Or Lucrezia in turn 11 progression took this like stack spread mechanic and just had everyone stand in the same spot and like brute force heals through it. That was a legitimate strategy.
Yeah.
When considering their goal of killing the fight as possible. So yeah, analysis paralysis can definitely hinder both your individual play, your progression as like a player in this game when it comes to like learning more jobs, and it can affect your whole group's performance, especially during progression. And that's my biggest flaw, I believe. Also, I play Monk a lot.
Yeah.
What would you say yours is, Chet?
Impatience. If you want to make me mad, if your goal is to make me as mad as possible, take a bathroom break. All right. Then you tell the raid member next to you, lower on the party list, to take a bathroom break after the next pull. And then you tell the guy below you to take another one. I'm gone at that point.
Like a bathroom rotation.
Oh my! Whenever that happens, I just don't even want to play anymore. I'm like, what's going on? Seriously, we've had like 3 polls in the past 45 minutes. Just kill me.
And then by the time the 4th person took their bathroom break, I still don't have a balance.
And Bach still hasn't drawn a balance, and I'm really impatient. I like to pull quick, and the dream pull is one thing, but I can stomach a dream pull now that Bach has to draw cards. So I guess Astro being meta is a good thing because it let me stomach the dream pull. But I was so anti dream poll. I know it's probably kind of a meme on the stream that I hated the dream poll. Yeah, I'm a very impatient player a lot
Well,
sometimes.
I have a question for you then. All right, I have a question for you. If impatience is your pet peeve, then why did you get so mad at me by that home game? Because I was patiently inside that puddle. I was
Oh
waiting
my
Oh,
god.
patiently for my home game to
uh,
be. You know
Did you
what?
have to
that
Let's
say
not even
that? Now
talk
he's
about
pissed
that. Let's
off
just
now.
yeah.
dude.
Look what you did.
Oh man, if you would have been a bit more patient with your activation of home gang, it wouldn't have caused a wipe. If you wouldn't have just used home gang
Yo,
for
you
its one
right. You
purpose
right.
of not movement.
You right. So you right. All right. So that's okay. So that's it
That is a
for.
continuing problem. I am tilted whenever we have to wait.
So that okay. So that's it for what's the word. So that pretty much wraps up the show. But we do have some questions from the strum. So let's see. Okay. Hold on. Let me copy paste this. Okay. What do you find are deadly but less commonly discussed pitfalls that a rating group can come across when working on progression, and how would you recommend addressing said issue?
Well, the question doesn't even fit in the box. Come
I
on,
mean,
guys. Keep them short, please.
You have to take a breath in the middle of a question.
there we. Oh, well, there we go. It should fit in the box now. Okay, there we go. So, what would you say, Chet? How would you answer that?
Well, what are some deadly but less commonly discovered pitfalls?
Gotta read it again. I had
Can
to
you
read it
repeat the
Can
twice.
someone else
question?
jump in? Can someone else jump in here? I don't know. What are some? Let's. How about we discuss some? What are
Okay,
some
we'll do a
pitfalls?
group discussion.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, group
please.
discussion. All right,
Fill
let
me
me
out
read the
here.
question again.
All right, what slowed us down during prog? What slowed us down the most, would you say?
Wait, there was
Do you know
progression this raid tier?
Dino didn't tell us his strats fast enough. He had to sometimes stop and look at his past streams to tell us what they were doing, so we lost like minutes at a time.
I know something.
Go for it.
I know things, and here's one of them. Like saying, like messing up your rotation and like going like fuck, I'm stupid, or like dying to something and just like beating yourself up about it, but also like making it vocal. I don't know, just
Cluttering
kind
comms?
of yeah, and including your comms, and also, you know, imparting this negativity, like, you know, that just seeps into the other players in your group, and their attitude towards you know, what they're doing right now. It's just like a lot sometimes. Like, you can't avoid beating yourself up for stuff, but you can't control whether or not you choose to, you know, push the talk button, or if you just, you know, say it to yourself. You could scream at the computer if you want, um, but you just don't press the button. And yeah, having tight control over over the comms, and making sure, like, you know, the stuff comes up, you need to make sure it's a good platform for effective communication at all times. And sometimes there's a lot of information, that can be missed, or you can lead someone into the wrong path of thinking, either temporarily or long term, based on how you choose to step up, press your push to talk button. I think I've been saying like step on it. I actually step on my push to talk button. I don't know if people knew that.
Step to talk?
Kick the
Step to
top.
talk. Kick the talk. But
To-
anyway, yeah.
To add on to this, something that was mentioned earlier in the show is like when a group is unwilling to give each other. They're not transparent with each other, and they won't give each other constructive criticism because they're afraid it would, you know, hurt each other's feelings or whatever. But it's like you could complain about it to each other, but you can't actually bring it to the person that you have the complaint about, right? Then it's, I don't know, it's not. I think that kind of stunts a group's growth as a team if you're not willing to kind of talk out your problems, and whether it's a team problem, like an attitude problem, or just like maybe you want someone to play at a higher level, or they're not doing something that you think they should be doing. Some people just kind of bottle it up and keep it to themselves, but if you can't be transparent to your team, then you can't really expect to see any improvement. So I think that's a pretty common pitfall with a lot of groups.
Sometimes, like when I like fuck up, it like really fucking lingers with me. Like sometimes, I don't know, like I'll use like a CD wrong or something, or like I'll die because like something went off late, or like I'll lose threat on like an ad or something because I'll get like greedy or something, and sometimes that like really lingers with me, even though like right when I do it, I realize what I did and I fix it the next poll. Like even though I fixed it the next poll, sometimes I'm still like, man, I got to do this right another at least 10 more times before I can fucking make up for that fuck up. I don't know why I have that mentality sometimes, but I guess I don't know. Like I try really, really hard not to mess up. And yeah, when I do, sometimes depending on the situation, it like kind of lingers. So I think like, I don't know. I think like if other people have that issue too, like, yeah, that definitely can hinder you like during like grades sometimes. But yeah. Did you guys have anything else to say on that one?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, here's the next question. For groups that only do weekly clears, how can one try new strats and optimizations while minimizing the harm done to the group? Okay, I'm gonna take the lead on this. This is my show. I can answer the questions I want to. What I would do, and actually I had okay, so I would make a second character, and I back in Gordius, I was not happy with the amount of times that we raided. I was not. I wanted to raid more. I wanted to raid more, and I wanted to like take raiding more seriously. So it was kind of like it was just kind of one of those things where it was my mentality was just a little different than like some of the members of the group, and the way their mentality wasn't necessarily like it wasn't wrong, and my mentality wasn't wrong. It was just we kind of wanted or had different expectations. So what I personally did was I made another character because that fulfilled my like my rating, I guess, need or whatever. It like satisfied me while at the same time it wasn't being harmful at all to the group. So that's what I personally did. Did you
I
guys
think
have
for
anything for this?
um, I think trying to do stuff with other groups, joining trap parties, it kind of limits what you can do in a trap party. It's not like you can try like 3-man time gate in a trap party, right? But aside from that, I think a lot of groups, like for example within RFC, a lot of groups have one or two people who don't want to do extra days, and sometimes more, and you can't really fault them for it, right? So maybe organizing something where the people who do want to play more and do extra days and just have fun with the content can get together and practice shit and do speed runs together, even though you're not in the same group. So I don't know, trying to set something up like that might be a good idea because there are people who are just like you, and yeah, they're basically in the same boat. But if you can find a way to kind of hook up, then yeah, that might help.
Did you, Chad or Jeff, did you have anything on this?
Yeah. Yeah. So the problem with like pursuing optimizations in a constricted rate situation is like I don't know, the rate is long and 3 hours is about the time it takes for most groups to tackle this content. So if you're making any changes, you're messing with people's stuff and they'll be distracted and potentially you'll wipe to a fight where you're just trying to get that one where like people don't make mistakes, but now you're wiping because of a change in strategy and the implications of it, and that can be frustrating and it can interfere with a restricted schedule. I think the best way to deal with it is to communicate beforehand and make sure people know, understand, and have the time to like reflect on what they're going to do with this new situation. In addition to, I think the biggest thing you do is to, like if you kill the raid, you can still play the game in that way. It's still interesting to a lot of people to go into a fight after you've already killed it and make some optimizations there, and you'll really have time to reinforce them, because chances are you're playing more aggressively and like dying's like kind of okay, and you don't have the pressure of like having to get it done because you need to, and that's like so if you have a group that raids 1 or 2 times a week, definitely keep like once it's on farm, keep both those days and turn the second one into kind of a fun thing where you go into the content and make changes and try to do the best you can. That's what I'd say about that.
I think fun days are I think fun days are really, really good. They're really, really good for the group. Keep you in practice too. Did you have anything on this, Chet?
No, my mentality is I just wanted to keep the group happy, so I just want to do whatever the group wants, honestly. So, like, at least in our situation, like, I'm fine with just rating 2 days a week. I'm fine with rating 9. 3. Sorry, what did I say 9?
9 days a week.
Not 3.
9 hours.
I don't know.
Yo,
like,
I wish we could rate
I
9
think-
days a week.
I know you do. You'd raid 24 hours a day.
I
If you could
did. Fucking log on, raid, go to bed. Log on, raid, go to bed.
dream about raiding, just to make sure you're min-maxing. But I don't know. Like you just gotta keep to the status quo with the group. You can't just force people to do stuff they don't want. So probably have to look outwardly. I agree with these guys.
Okay, what do you got? Okay, here's the next question. What do you guys think about jump potions or like boost potions?
I think they're great.
What's a jump potion?
It auto levels you.
It auto levels
max.
you, and there's also been talks about a story jump potion.
That's what it is?
Yeah.
All this whole time, I'm like, what the fuck? Why is everyone arguing about jump potions?
I thought it
they
was
were
an
just potions
actual
that just
jump
made you
potion.
jump higher or
I thought it was
something.
Why do they have
I'm
to?
just like, that
you know what? I'm
sounds great.
deleting
You can
this
get
word.
on like rooftops and stuff. That sounds awesome. Why is everyone so up in arms about jump potions? All this time they're talking about leveling potions. God, I'm dumb. Holy shit. Anyway, sorry. You're saying?
I'm changing the word jump to leveling and cutscene skipping. I fucking thought it was a jump potion too. I felt so retarded after
Oh my
someone
God.
told me that. I was like, wait,
serious?
jump? I was like, wait,
You guys
what?
you guys are stupid. It took
Yeah.
me like 10 seconds to figure it out.
Yeah,
I thought
There's
that
a whole
too.
thread about
How to
people
be
being
a-
pissed off about jump potions. I'm like, what's wrong with jumping higher and farther? That sounds awesome.
I thought they were adding jumping puzzles to the game, like in Guild Wars 2. They have
All
jumping
right,
puzzles.
this is some constructive criticism. You guys are dumb.
Yeah.
Man, fuck you.
So, like the thing that I like, man, I really like the leveling potions and the cutscene skipping potions. I fucking like. I would gladly pay like $20 for if I was gonna level. Like, I would have another character if they put these into the game. I'd pay I'd throw $40 down for a fucking leveling and a cutscene skipping. I love the idea.
I think the question. I know personally, but you'd enjoy it, but is it good for the game? You know, you have to think of the macro
Oh,
perspective.
I mean, I don't know. It might be
Would it-
awful for the game.
Would it make people worse at the job?
Well, the cutscene skipping
would it lower
potion-
people's skill?
The
Like, I
the
think
cutscene
skipping-
potion is fine. I don't think it would change the game at all. But well, see if you're gonna go into some high level RP, it'll probably change the game.
Wait.
But
Why the fuck would you need a potion to skip cutscenes? Don't people have the escape button?
I mean,
No, it it would let you skip the main quest,
Yeah.
main story quests.
because right
Oh,
now
see?
you have to do all the.
But you-
Oh
are
wait,
you-
hold on. Let me
you
rephrase
guys,
that.
Are you? Oh,
What?
There, hold on. I rephrase it again. Like that's what I meant. Like the main story. I didn't mean the actual. Sorry. But yeah, I think it would be awesome because right now you have to like go through all this fucking bullshit, you know, to get the story. You have to go through all these fucking quests. Because what if you don't give a shit about the story, right? Like, I mean, I know everybody cares about the story, but just saying, what if somebody didn't care about the story? Wouldn't that be cool to just fucking skip all those cutscenes and shit,
no,
man?
it would be cool just because it would let you skip all the It would let you skip all the side quests before you to unlock content. It would just straight let you skip all that. I think that would be the huge.
I wouldn't mind that. I mean,
But I
like
think
if,
the
if,
biggest
you, if you
fear-
don't want it, you could just not buy it. And what's the big deal, right?
like the average, if you see an average, you know, dragoon in Party Finder or Duty Finder right now, you know, you can expect no Blood of the Dragon, you can expect no heavy thrust, right? I don't even think they'll just do their 1-2-3 combo, right? And that's probably, maybe that's average. Maybe I'm just jaded, but people's fear is that it would lower the average player skill level. I think is one of the biggest fears that at least the Reddit community had.
No way. There's okay.
But I
Sorry.
don't think I feel like the players that are good at the game and good at their class, I don't think, you know.
So
it'll be
what
that
you're
difficult.
saying is that if they implement jump potions, there will be dragoons out there who don't know how to use jump.
Oh, maybe Dragoon was a bad class to pick for this, this scenario.
No, I think. Okay, people want to play this game and they like MMOs, but then they're like, oh god, I have to do 100 hours of questing to be able to play this MMO because when I get to the end is when the true game begins. Like that's when you could actually start practicing things and do the fights that are relevant. So
I don't
so,
see how it hurts the game, though. I mean, if you don't want to,
if you want if you want this game to continue to exist and be, you know, have as much attention from the developers as it does right now, like you want people playing the game, and
Yeah, I think it's great for
and
them to help.
having a skip potion will undeniably increase the activity and the vitality that the game has, and I think you'll be introducing players who are skipping straight to, like, you know, all the abilities that this game has to offer, and they'll have to be learning to play a job. But like, I personally don't think it's too much. I don't like Final Fantasy doesn't have an insane amount of abilities compared to certain MMOs that I've played. I think people can figure it out, but it'll also open the door to other people who want to check out the game, who are fans of the MMO genre, and then like maybe are raiders, and by letting them get into the game easier, you're gonna have more like competitive people in the end game.
And forcing people, like, new content's out, so people are hyped about the new content. Forcing them to go through hours and hours of old stuff isn't healthy either.
But like I can understand why people might not want it, but
Why
what
is
has
that?
to happen, because it kind of diminishes the what do I call it, the substance of the story
not
and
for
the
the people who
game
don't
and the
choose
environment.
not to use it, right?
But like,
Yeah.
I guess, like, if people really strongly identify with the processes of becoming a warrior of light, and demand that from others, that they experience the process of becoming a warrior of light, then I guess
I guess.
I'll respect that. I don't agree with it.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough, but I don't like the argument that people are going to be worse players because they didn't have to progress through the story and they
They
didn't
will
have
not
to
be.
level. It's like You really think that's what makes a good player good? Like all the people who are saying, oh, people who didn't have to level aren't going to be very skilled at the game, and then they go and grind fates to get their level, their experience points, right? It's
Hey
like,
man, I
makes
did
no
that.
sense.
But what needs to happen though, like regardless of the skip potion or not, they need to change the 2.1 and on main story quest. They needed to like allow you to bypass that.
Yeah.
Like that was just absurd. I couldn't like continue leveling to level cap until I did 20 hours of quests.
Yeah.
And they were all just like filler content, like most of them. So yeah, it was really dumb. Like it needs to turn into maybe some sort of like a recount of the events that happened during the main story quest at that time. Maybe the option to do it, but like also an option to skip it, and maybe like some sort of instance, like some like eighth area, like fever dream kind of encounter where battles come and go and whatever. Like that'd be really cool. I think it'd be a cool thing to get out to the game, but it would also cut out, it would cut the fat and like I don't know. I just thought that part was so dumb when I had to do it like 3 times on my 4 different characters, 4 times.
Yeah. I think
I'd
that
take advantage of them, but I guess it's only for, I guess it's not for current content or something. I guess I'm not sure. I don't know all the details on the jump potions, but I mean, I don't know. The only downside I could see was like, you'd have someone that fucking jumped all the way to max level and they literally have never played the game before. I think they have that in other MMOs too, though, but I don't know how harmful it is to the game, but you would definitely be able to tell if you got one in Party Finder or Duty Finder or whatever.
And someone who doesn't know how to play the game because I don't know.
Yeah.
I think the notion that it would like dilute player skill or reduce player skill for the average player, I don't know. I find that hard to believe.
We're also going to see more people with like leveled and geared alts, just doing party finder stuff with people. And
I think it's going to be good for stuff like that.
Yeah.
Can't be that much worse than the players we have now.
I mean, that's
also
another
don't think-
thing. How
I don't think
how,
we're trying to.
Or sorry, go ahead.
I don't think we're trying to like preserve anything really.
Yeah.
In terms of player skill.
Yeah,
Might
it's
jump
like
to conclusions.
Oh, jeez, man.
All right, I'm sorry. Continue. What were you gonna say?
I was going to say, like, I think any harm that it does can't outweigh the good that it brings. So, at least that's my
Okay.
opinion.
All right. Next question.
okay. So last question. What was your starting point that got you into MMOs? Then, as going forward, what was your favorite MMO/RPG? As well as your favorite of their respected classes? Okay, so mine. Okay, so the very first MMO that I ever played was Ion. I don't know if you guys know anything about Ion, but it's like a Korean game. So it's like, well, at the time it was like fucking super ridiculously grindy, but in that game, I mentioned it earlier, and I played my very first class in that game was a gladiator, which is kind of like it's kind of like a warrior. They use like pole arms and axes and stuff. But that was the first MMO that I played, and a gladiator was like a DPS class. I don't know if that's changed since then, but when like during the time when I played Ion, like I was a clicker, and it was just me, like Nick and David, and we were playing, and it was just us 3, and we were so horrible. Oh my god!
Wait,
We
are we replaying the start of the stream? 'Cause this is what
well, hold on.
happened. This is the same story as the start of the
Hold
stream.
on. I'm continuing. Hold on. Yeah. I'm getting to it. But basically after Ion, like I started to get a little better or whatever. I started to get a little better, and I played Rift. And oh, I loved Rift. Rift was so good, man. Rift was so good. Like obviously, like this is honestly my favorite MMO. Like Final Fantasy 14 is my favorite MMO. Like I love this game. But Rift was really, really, really good. And sometimes, man, I regret quitting. Sometimes I regret quitting, but yeah. So my first MMO was Ion, and then I really enjoyed Rift. But yeah, actually, Final Fantasy 14 is actually my favorite MMO. I really enjoy this game. I really like the tanking and healing. Like the tanking and healing meta. I just think I just think it's really cool. I just think it's really cool. But yeah, what do you guys think?
My first MMO was RuneScape. Started playing it in like 2003. I'm playing it right now, actually, as we're doing this Unchained. So that probably tells you what I think about it. But my friend got me into SWTOR, like after my freshman year of college, and played that for a couple of years. And the guys that I met in that game brought me to 14, and I like SWTOR rating a shit ton, but I think I like FF more. So my tier is RuneScape, probably my favorite game, my favorite MMO, and then FF, then SWTOR. But those are the only 3 MMOs I've played.
Okay, let's see. My first MMO was FF11. So I played all the FFs, so I'm just like, oh, this online game, this is interesting. I should pick it up. So me and a few friends played it. It was fun. I mean, like, I like leveling and I like being a part of a community and stuff. But I stopped playing that when I started playing WoW, which I don't know. I'm probably gonna make some enemies here, but WoW was way better than FF11. FF11, the game kind of fucking sucked. Anyway, WoW was probably the most fun I've had playing video games, period. So I really like WoW. And this game is kind of made in the mold of WoW more than it is made in the mold of FF11, just the way it plays. And I like PvE more than I like PvP, so that's probably why I really like this game too. Right, Jeff?
Okay, so you guys are a little bit, a little bit older than I am. I was a kid when there were MMOs that were easily accessible, and I would obviously do kid appropriate things. And so my first MMO was Disney's Toontown Online.
Toontown,
Damn,
man.
sick.
You
what
probably
was
see
the
the
what was the end
commercials,
game
right?
like? Probably tons of noobs in that game.
I don't want to talk about it. If you want to talk to me about it, we could do it later.
It's okay.
But that game has probably the most intense grind out of any game I've touched or looked at, except for XI. I don't know. It's hard. It's a long explanation, but it involves like fishing, having 0.001% drop rates, and needing to get every fish. And completionisting is necessary to get all your vitality points. Like all your HP points depends on how far you've completionisted the game. So that was my first one. I don't know, that always became like a go-to thing for like when I was stressed out or whatever, just because it was familiar and lighthearted and whatever. But I soon ventured into other games that interested me. I played RuneScape. I got killed by a tree, and then I stopped playing RuneScape. I
Went back to
because it scared
Disney
me.
Toontown.
Then eventually I played Lord of the Rings Online. I liked Lord of the Rings. I wasn't allowed to watch Harry Potter or play World of Warcraft because they had monsters in it. But Lord of the Rings for some reason was okay to my parents. So I played Lord of the Rings Online.
The fuck? It's basically the same thing.
Yeah, I played Lord of the Rings Online because it's okay. And I kind of dicked around. Like I was still young and stupid, and I just saw lights and like HP bars go down. And I didn't really have a concept of rotation or anything. Like now going back to the game, I see that the game is very complicated. And like early on, you have like 20 abilities, and they work together, kind of in an intricate way. And I guess looking back, I didn't have a chance at understanding that game. If you want to if you want to see an example of a very difficult rotation, just look at the Warden's Gambit system. It's like Ninja Mudras, but there's up to combinations of 5, and there's about 30 of them, and then there's 2 stances that change the effect of each.
That sounds dumb as
Yeah.
hell.
It's incredible. But the class is also overpowered, so there's a very direct correlation between skill and performance. Like someone who's very skilled and can handle the very complex classes will double the performance of other people playing simpler classes. Even someone playing a simpler class perfectly won't even come close. So that was an interesting game to me. And then I played that for a bit. I have a lifetime subscription to that game, but at some point I stopped. I stopped playing those games in favor of like rhythm games, and I played like Step Mania Online a bunch, and then came Final Fantasy. My sister's husband recommended to me that I play Final Fantasy, and I started playing this game, like still having no idea of what a rotation was supposed to look like. I died to a Morble, and that really kicked me into gear to to the long process of discovery that led to today me on Unchained for some reason talking about good players.
Yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I'm more curious about this Disney MMO. Is there like a Disney
Dude.
Toontown logs or whatever?
Every story I've ever heard about FF11, like everyone talks about Alphani, and then they tell the story of the grind of it. I'm like, this sounds absolutely dreadful. You guys are terrible at selling this game. It's like,
yeah, that's like,
man, you have to grind this boss, and first hit gets it, and like less than a 1% drop rate. Oh man, I love that game. Like,
yeah,
holy shit, you
Marby
guys
says a
suck at
bunch of
selling.
horror stories like that too. Marby and Nick, they're telling me shit like it takes you like over, like it takes you
hours to
years
walk
to get like a
places.
relic. And I'm like, holy fuck, man, years to get a relic. Oh my
Man,
god.
being an FF11 player is like being in an abusive relationship. It takes and takes, but it never gives.
I've never, like, when 11 came out, I didn't have like a computer, or I didn't even have internet when 11 came out. So, I mean, I would have played it if I had the opportunity to, but I just didn't get the opportunity.
What year did 11 come out?
Oh fuck, I don't even know. Like 2003, 4, something like that. 2, maybe, I don't fucking know.
May
wrong?
16, 2002.
2002.
Dude, I
okay,
was
yeah.
10 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
I was too young for that.
It was like PS2, I think, or wait, yeah, something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, still going, man, still going strong, dude.
Yeah, Lace is up. Lace and Doc are up a few channels playing FF11 right now. Dude, that was when I was playing Pokemon on the Game Boy, 2002.
Well,
All right.
I
So,
think that's
anything else?
yeah, I think that's like pretty much all the questions and shit, man. Uh,
Nice, good shit.
yeah. So I guess yeah, we'll just close out the strum.
Anyone got any
end of the
shout-outs?
episode, and yeah, you guys have any shout outs you want to do?
Nah, I'm good. Shout out to the Selling Shell. Shout out to the people that join us in the Backseat Gaming channel.
The backseat bullies.
The Backseat Bullies. dude.
Backseat bullies. Can we touch on backseat bullies just for a second?
Sure.
Go
So
for
in
it.
the Backseat Bullies channel, that's the channel where all of us join to just completely shit on other people. It's a pretty good time in there. So if you're ever in Mumble and see a bunch of people in Backseat Bullies, that's what we're doing. What were you going to say, Bach?
No, nothing.
Do you have any shout outs?
Nope.
What about you, Jeff?
I'd like to thank my family for giving birth to me.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Thanks. No.
Thanks for encouraging me to be a great monk, Mom.
I have some shout outs I want to
Go
do.
for it.
Go for it.
I'm
Shout out
gonna
to the Twitch chat.
I'm giving a shout out to my number one. This is my number one. This community of people has warmed my heart around the holidays and kept my spirit high. And that community of people is Twitch and Twitch chat. I love
You called it
Twitch.
chat.
I love Twitch chat so much, man. Holy fuck. Like, Twitch chat is so good. Like around Thanksgiving, Twitch chat. Around Christmas, Twitch chat. Around my birthday, it's Twitch chat. It's just, man, really. And I'm being serious. I'm not fucking trolling either. Like, I love Twitch chat. It's the fucking greatest. Like, there's so many cool people that I've met through Twitch. It's insane, man. Especially at FanFest. I was fortunate enough to meet some of them. So, but yeah, always shout out to Twitch chat and, my raid group. Both my raid groups. And yeah, man. Feels good, man. That's pretty much it. So, yeah, I'd like to thank you guys for coming on to the show again. This show only exists because of all of us. Just you guys put just as much work into it as I do. Maybe even more. Maybe
Don't
even
forget
more.
to close out this time with the thing that
Oh
you did.
yeah, so I guess as a closing statement. There's only one way to close out this show, and that is Unchained, bitch!